13 of the Town of Fairfield Town Plan and Zoning Commission meeting. The meeting will now come to order. We're going to go into executive session. First item we have under Bills and Communications are the meeting minutes from our June 11th, 2013 meeting. Is there a motion? Thank you. Commissioner Wagner has moved to approve. Is there a second? Thank you. Commissioner Jacobson has seconded. Any discussion? Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes as submitted of the June 11th, 2013 meeting signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are approved unanimously. Next item, application to recommend to public hearing, 652 Commerce Drive, special permit application of Bishop Design and Development for renovations and conversion from retail to medical office in a designed commercial district, Commerce Drive Design District. Mr. Wendt?
This is a proposal to convert the Sims building to a medical office building, basically what that application is all about.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this to recommend a public hearing?
I'll make one, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Kennelly. Is there a second? Commissioner Jacobson is seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of recommending to public hearing 652 Commerce Drive, special permit application of Bishop Design and Development for renovations and conversions from retail to medical office in a designed commercial district, Commerce Drive Design District, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously. One item is under old business, 1410 South Pine Creek Road, request of Calvin Munson for 100% release of a $4,985 bond pertaining to subdivision improvements in an R3 zone. Public hearing 6/11/13. Present Commissioners Leclerc, Barretts, Jacobs, Jacobson, Suter, Wagner, Alessi, and Parker. Mr.
Yeah,
Kvancic?
as you heard at the last hearing, this is a two-lot resub that was approved back in July 2006. The bonded improvements included concrete curbs, sidewalks and ramp, street trees, monuments, and a lot stabilization. As you know, the engineering department did issue a report and confirm that all the work has been completed, and they recommend release of the bond.
Thank you. Who's on this one right now? Is it? Thank you. Commissioner Parker, you're on for Commissioner Kennelly on this item. At least for this item so far, under old business. Release of the bond. Is there a motion on 1410 South Pine Creek Road? For release of the bond?
I'll move to release the bond.
Thank you. Commissioner Barretts has moved for release. Commissioner Jacobs has seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of release of bond for 1410 South Pine Creek Road signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously. We'll now go to the compliance calendar where we have 5 items. The first is 65 Station Street, compliance application of Mark Finlay to expand existing parking by 10 spaces in a neighborhood design district. Mr. Wendt?
This is a two-building property adjacent to the south side of the Southport Railroad Station. It was owned by, it's basically the property where Sturm Ruger was first located. Not long about a year ago, this commission approved a compliance application to renovate these buildings back to office use. And there is adequate parking pursuant to our regulations. However, this applicant is seeking to expand the parking lot by 10 spaces. If it is approved, it would also require Historic District Commission approval since this property is in the Southport Historic District.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this item? Commissioner Wagner, is that a second? Commissioner Suter, motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yeah,
Commissioner Barretts?
what is really the rationale why they need the space? Even though they've got adequate parking now, why do they feel they need additional space?
Well, I don't know for certain, but I can assume that they're probably hearing. I know the tenant in the front smaller building is going to be a William Ravis real estate office. I don't know if they have tenants lined up for the back building, but perhaps they're getting feedback from prospective tenants that they want some more parking. That's pure speculation on my part, but.
And what is on the ground there now?
What's on the ground is what's the existing striping, and the proposed 10 additional spaces are cross-hatched on the left-hand side of the drawing.
Is it asphalt? It says proposed asphalt. Is it currently asphalt?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's just a proposed parking space. Asphalt.
That's correct.
Thank you, Commissioner Suter.
Yeah, it seems to me it says it doesn't adversely impact any neighbors, and needs of the applicant.
Thank you, Commissioner Suter. Is there any further discussion by any member of the commission? Commissioner Barrett, Jacobs, I'm sorry.
Just a question for staff. Is it normal for them to come to us before Historic Commission, or would they go to them?
You know, Historic Commission bylaws require any zoning variances or TPZ applications to occur prior to them putting it on their agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of compliance application 65 Station Street, application of Mark Finlay to expand existing parking by 10 spaces in a neighborhood design district, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously. Next item, 314 Uncor Road, compliance application of the Connecticut Audubon Society to rebuild a portion of an existing building, specifically the Birdcraft Museum, in an A zone. Mr. Wendt?
Okay, hopefully you're familiar with this property on Uncor Road. As the narrative lays out, they were initially proposing to renovate the central part of the building that's flanked by two stone portions of the building. After further examination and getting into it, there wasn't anything worth salvaging in there. So basically, they're demolishing that central portion of the building and rebuilding it on the same footprint and same basic design. This is a special exception use. However, they're not expanding or establishing a new use here, and they're replacing the existing square footage. So we thought a reasonable approach would be to put it before you as a compliance application, since their original renovation plan wouldn't have required any action by the commission. But if you feel that that replacement would give rise to a special exception application, that is an option that would require a hearing, or whether or not you just think that this replacement, since it's not expanding or establishing a new use, can be handled through an administrative compliance application.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Thank you. Commissioner Kennelly has moved to approve. Is there a second? Commissioner Jacobson is seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Kennelly?
Well, thanks. I would say that the positives here are the accessibility, which obviously, is long required. It'll be a great deal of improvement, making the new structure ADA compliant. My only concern would be just, will we face down the line situations where we'll kind of set a precedent where we may, I don't know how much discretion later. My concern is, I do think this is reasonable enough to go ahead and approve as a compliance. I'm just a little nervous. Do we set a precedent? I don't think so. That if we choose here to treat this as a compliance, that somehow something that's similar.
You've had other examples.
Right, exactly. That's my concern. I don't want to tie our hands.
Where you've
right.
approved a special exception and then later made a modification administratively. So
right.
It's not.
So in other words, we're not tying our hands down the line.
No,
to
I don't think this
this
locks you into any position for any future application.
Okay, great. Okay.
Thank you. That's a good question, Commissioner Kennelly. Any further discussion by any member of the commission? Seeing none, all in favor of 314 Uncor Road, application of the Connecticut Audubon Society to rebuild a portion of an existing building, the Birdcraft Museum, in an A zone, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously. Next item, 2316 Post Road, compliance application of Martin Levine for 150 square feet of outdoor dining at the Martell Restaurant in a design commercial district. Mr. Wendt?
Okay. This is a patio that's existed in front of Martell since about 2009. They haven't had any table service out here. Its previous use has been, as many restaurants have since the adoption of the no smoking law, an area where customers could go out and smoke. There were tables where people could be standing, but they had no service outside. And there's some photos in here in the description from the applicant, since the reconstruction of their front sidewalk area by the state. They've put some walls around there, and now they're seeking to establish 150 square feet for the table service on what has been an existing patio.
Thank you, Mr. Wendt. Is there a motion on this?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Kennelly's moved to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Jacobs has seconded. Any discussion?
Well, I'm in favor of these kinds of things. I don't, looking at the plan, looking at the pictures, I didn't see anything immediately that seemed to disqualify it. And it's to some extent an existing use because, as Mr. Wendt pointed out, this was a space already that was used for smokers and for folks who might have stood at those tables. So I hope they'll approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Kennelly. Any other comment? I would tend to agree. I think this is a great addition to outdoor dining and the outdoor dining landscape in Fairfield. It was beautifully done. We've watched it the last few weeks go up. There is something I noticed in one of the pictures, though, that is troublesome, and that is picture A1. It's a little quiz. Who sees it besides me? Mr. Jacobs does.
But it's in the background.
Top left, we have look across at Fairfield Hyundai.
Yep.
If we can direct our zoning enforcement officer to remove that large illegal sign sitting on the roadway.
Yikes.
That is not tolerated. And in fact, the sign on the building, I don't believe that is allowed either. They've hung that poster off the side. So if we can issue an order to them, please. And thank Mr. Levine for that documentary proof of his neighbor to
That'll
the
make them get along
south.
really well. That'll be great. It'll be the
Commissioner
Hyundai
Barron's.
Martell Wars.
How to win friends and influence people.
Mr. Barretts.
Just so clear, I remember a few weeks ago, you took a trip down Post Road, and you recorded all the illegal signs. Martell's have any illegal signs?
Martell did not when I went by.
Because, I mean, I see these things, they crop up, we talked about, they're very tough to enforce, and, it's, when we have somebody coming to ask us for something, it's good to check that they're compliant. I'm happy that Martell's does comply.
And that's an excellent question, because 7 items from now, I have something to submit to mention illegal signs of people that have an application in front of us that I will show you, I will share with you. Yes?
And you can see their screens don't have little, Martell signs on the outside of their screens for the outdoor. So that's been there all the time.
Actually,
They're just
Beyond
red.
enforcement, but we do have.
Yeah, right,
somebody
hey, no,
come to
it-
ask us for something that's completely within our discretion, like
Let me tell you,
outdoor dining.
you reminded me last time about the fact how crucial it is for us to make sure we're careful about distinctions and precedents. So you're right, absolutely.
And I have to compliment, this is one of the nicest outdoor dining designs we have in
yeah.
Fairfield, I think, the way this was done. This is not just barriers that can be moved around. This is, it really looks nice on the Post Road. As you come up the Post Road, it is very nice.
I'd love to have this in my backyard.
Is there any further discussion on this application at 2316 Post Road? Yeah, that is a good example of people, of how to, to make nice outdoor dining. Any further discussion of this item? Hearing none, all in favor of 2316 Post Road compliance application of Martin Levine for 150 square feet of outdoor dining at Martell in a design commercial district signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously. Next item, 682 Commerce Drive, compliance application of Jeremy Waycott for an overall sign plan in a design commercial district. Mr. Wendt?
This is the Bright Horizons Daycare Facility that's under construction at that address. It's adjacent to the Sims parcel. These are signs that are very similar to what they showed you at the public hearing. All of them are not internally illuminated. There's 2 sets of acrylic pin-mounted letters on the building and a proposed ground sign adjacent to the entrance.
Thank you, Mr. Wendt. Is there a motion on this? Thank you. Commissioner Suter has moved to approve. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. Any discussion? And these are fully in compliance with our regulations, correct?
They are.
Thank you. Commissioner Suter, I think that was,
I
yeah.
studied the designs and we read our signage regulations and we could comply with our regulations.
Thank you. Everyone all set? Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of application 682 Commerce Drive, compliance application of Jeremy Waycott for an overall sign plan in a design commercial district, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously. Next, compliance application 808 Post Road, compliance application of Sergio Keskin to establish a takeout food establishment in a portion of an existing building in a design commercial district. Mr. Wendt, please.
Okay, this property is on the corner of North Benson and the Post Road where Sunny Days is. There's currently a Sprint retail store there that's relocating further down the Post Road. What they're looking to establish here is a takeout food establishment, and they're looking to take down the, I don't know, the band, the sign band basically that Sprint has, and replace the garage doors on the front of the building and put channel letter signs up similar to what Sunny Days has, you know, to be consistent. But the parking is a wash from retail. Since this is takeout, no seating is proposed.
And are they coming back, Mr. Wendt, with an overall sign plan, do you know?
Well, I think their intent is to, they show on their drawing a sign location. I don't know that they have a name yet for this establishment, but they show on their drawings where they intend to put two wall signs that would be channel letter signs. There's a description in their narrative. So they're showing you two sample locations of where they would put a channel letter sign, which is essentially consistent with the sign plan for the building. Sprint has two channel letter signs, so they'd be replacing them. They're just taking that soffit down. So the architectural drawings show the location for signage on the side and the front. Just says signage. It's just a. They use the word signage because they don't have a name yet for the tenant, but it's
Do we have one of these? Oh, there it is.
oh, there's sign. Represents a channel letter sign, similar to what Sprint has.
The signage shall be channel letters, shall not exceed 72 square feet. Basically, just words that says it
Yeah.
will comply.
Okay.
There's words on the plan that says it will comply, there's no signage.
Right.
Words that basically says we'll meet the regulations.
Well, they show a sample sign that just says signage is the. I think that's their.
Are they just going to suspend those letters off the side of the building, or what are they?
Yeah. They'll be on a raceway typically, just like Sunny Days has.
I think, but the raceway won't be will not be illuminated. It's not going to be an
No,
illuminated
just the letters.
stripe around the building with just those words on. Just, you know what I'm talking about? They're not illuminating the top foot of the strip around the building at nighttime and then having the letters only one portion of it,
No, they're not
correct?
permitted to do that.
Right. I just want to make sure that there wasn't. I couldn't tell the way they've drawn this thing what they were exactly proposing. Is there a motion on this?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Barris has moved to approve. Is there a second? Commissioner Kennelly has seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Jacobs?
Just wanted to, again, with staff, right now they're saying there's no seating.
Right.
Will enforcement be diligent on that?
Sure.
Now, am I correct that if they start putting in seating, now they're going to have a parking issue?
Well, we'd have to do the math on the patron area, but
Yeah.
it's potentially possible, yes.
All right. I would just hope that they're aware of this, so that they're aware of it going in, so that they don't put in seating and say, we didn't know.
Well, it's in their narrative. Number one, open a takeout deli restaurant with no table service or seating area.
Yeah, one thing, the seating is a little the parking is a little unusual in their discussion. Maybe if someone could elaborate or clarify. It talks about they've got 1,883 square feet, which is 9.4, which we round up to 10 required parking spaces. But then they go on and recite that they have a variance for 14 spaces for that area. So why do they have a variance for 14 if they only need 10? That was, I didn't follow that
The
logic.
variance
what they're
isn't
trying
for this particular tenant space.
They talk about the Sprint retail area, that they got a variance for the Sprint area for 14, but it sounds like the Sprint area only needs 10 to begin with, unless that's a mistake.
They have a variance that it's confusing because what they got a variance for is a number, if you look at the site plan, a number of their parking spaces can't count because they're in the state right of way, along North Benson Road in particular. They have a lease with the state. So it was
Also not
when,
counting these.
Sunny Days did their seating area that they received a variance. So there's more spaces out there than we can credit them, since the
Okay.
spaces that are not on their property wholly don't count.
Oh, I see that line coming around the building then, the 29.41,
Right.
or the south 61
Yeah.
degrees, 30 feet, 50, is this property line, so we can't count any of those space. Okay, that would explain why the numbers are a little squirrely. Okay.
But this application doesn't change the draw on the parking demand, assuming they're going to do what they say.
Okay. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, 808 Post Road, compliance application of Sergio Keshkin to establish a takeout food establishment in a portion of an existing building in a designed commercial district, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions. Item carries unanimously. That concludes our executive session. This time to the public, we have 3 items here on the agenda tonight for public hearing: 680 Stilson Road, 620 Villa Avenue, and 742 Kings Highway West. That's the order that we will take up the items. We're going to stand in brief recess for 5 minutes to reconfigure the room and the microphones for the public hearing, so we stand in a brief recess. We're back in session. Again, this is the July 2nd, 2013 meeting of the Town of Fairfield Town Plan and Zoning Commission. We have 3 items of public hearing tonight. We'll begin with 680 Stilson Road, subdivision application of the estate of Joseph Cremona for 3 lots in an A zone. Anyone who's here from the public on this item who is interested in it, this is the order we'll proceed. The applicant, through its attorney, will present their application to the commission using any experts or witnesses as they deem appropriate and necessary. Upon the conclusion of the presentation by the applicant, any member of the public can get up, come to the microphone, and speak to the commission about this project. If you have any questions to the applicant, they should actually be addressed to the commission, and if appropriate, we will ask the applicant. Upon the conclusion of public comment, we will go back to the applicant for any final comments. We will then close the hearing. We will not vote on the applications tonight. Typically, they are not voted on until the next meeting of this commission. So with that said, Mr. Fitzpatrick, good evening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frey & Bologna. We have offices at 1150 Post Road. I'm here this evening representing the applicant, the estate of Joseph C. Cremona, the owner of property located at 680 Stilson Road. This property presently includes a single-family residence and is located on the northerly side of Stilson Road at the intersection of Pansy Road. This area has been primarily developed by single-family homes. Property here contains 30,548 square feet and is located in the Residence A zoning district. The zoning regulations pertaining to the Residence A zone require a minimum lot area of 9,375 square feet, as well as the accommodation of a 75-foot square. The proposal here is to retain the existing single-family residence, which will be located on proposed Lot 3, and to utilize the 2 existing curb cuts as the entrance to Lots 2 and Lot 3, respectively. Proposed Lot 3, which will include the existing single-family residence, will contain 10,666 square feet. Proposed Lot 2 will contain 9,955 square feet. Proposed Lot 1 at the corner of Pansy Road and Stilson Road will contain 9,927 square feet, all in excess of the minimum lot area requirement of 9,375 square feet, and all accommodating the required 75-foot square. Mr. Chairman, at this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jay Fain, a landscape architect and land use consultant with offices here in Fairfield, to describe the plan for the benefit of the commission. Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. For the record, Jay Fain from Jay Fain Associates, 134 Round Hill Road, Fairfield, Connecticut. We're environmental consultants, site planners, and landscape architects. The subject property, 680 Stilson Road, consists of 30,548 square feet, located on the northwest corner of the intersection of Stilson Road and Pansy Road. The property is across Pansy Road from the Osborne Hill School. We do have a rendered site plan here if the audience wants to take a look at this. Barry, would you mind holding this up?
Northeast corner, correct?
Northeast, excuse me. The property is across from Osborne Hill School. Stilson Road is a state highway, while Pansy Road is a local collector road. The corner of Pansy Road and Stilson Road is a signalized intersection. The site is currently occupied by a single-family residence with landscape plan. The existing house is right here. There are no wetlands or wetland setbacks on the property itself. The site gently slopes towards Stilson Road, and the site is located in the Zone Residence A. To help settle the estate of Mr. Cremona, the estate proposes to subdivide the parcel into 3 building lots, one containing the existing residence and 2 additional lots. Lot 1, which is on the corner of Pansy and Stilson Road, will be 9,927 square feet. Lot 2, which is in the middle here, with frontage on Stilson Road, will be 9,955 square feet, and Lot 3, with the existing residence, will be 10,666 square feet. All lots exceed the 9,375 square feet required for the Zone Residence A, and all lots conform to zoning in all respects, including the 75-foot square, which we note is free from any drainage structures. Lot 2 and 3 have frontage on Stilson Road, and will use the existing curb cuts in these locations on the state highway. Lot 1 has frontage on both Stilson Road and Pansy Road, and be accessed from Pansy Road, this location here. At this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Mr. Hammonds, our engineer, to describe the engineering details.
Thank you, Mr. Fain.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the Commission, my name is Barry Hammonds. I'm a professional engineer and a licensed land surveyor in the state of Connecticut and in the state of New York. I did the survey for the property. I also did the site plan and the design. And what I'd like to do now is to describe the drainage and some of the corrections that Ms. Pulley from the Town Engineering Department requested. Further information, actually. And then we want to go talk about sightline distance briefly. First of all, the drainage.
You just hold on, Mr. Hammond, one second. Is this, just for the record, what we're being handed? Is this?
This is sightline distance information.
Okay, so this is a new document that we don't have yet.
It's a new document.
Thank you.
Sideline out of the driveways and driveway to deal with
Mr.
that.
Hammond will get that.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. This is the record, so we picked up on that. Mr. Fitzpatrick handed us 2 documents, sightline analyses and a sightline distance plan and profile for Lot 1 driveway. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, you may continue.
Thank you. If you notice on lots 1 and 2, we show the dark lines down at the bottom and a
Mr.
manhole
Hammond,
neck.
I'm sorry, one more second. Did you have one extra copy in case any member of the public wants to look at it? Do we have, or does the staff have a, you know what, here, just take, you can take one of mine. I'll share. And if any member of the public, there's been 2 additional documents handed in. If any member of the public is here on this and wants to look at these documents, we'll leave them up on the table. You may just come up now and take a look at them if you'd like, folks, if anyone's interested. Again, Mr. Hammond.
Yes,
Sorry.
sir. Thank you. If you note, the dark rectangles at the bottoms of the 3 lots, these are Coltec chambers.
Wait.
Yes.
Let this young lady look at them, and then we have to see what
Oh,
you're
of
talking
course,
about.
yes.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, you can take that back to your seat, ma'am, if you want to. You don't have to, if anyone wants to. Okay. You said dark rectangles?
The dark rectangles on the bottom of the three lots represent stormwater recharge units, respect Coltech 330s.
You want a different drawing. Those are on drawing number, excuse me, sir. Those are on drawing, proposed site plan sheet. Third sheet, I believe.
3 of 5.
Thank you.
And then we prepared a drainage report, which is part of your package. It's fairly substantial. I'm not going to go into the whole thing. But under the Town of Fairfield storm drainage standards, there's 2 requirements that we need to make. One is that all 2, 5, 10, 25, 50, 100-year storms are attenuated. And the attenuation cannot make use of infiltration. So it's just simply a void that we stick the water in, and then it is discharged or metered out. Second is that you have to have enough void space where the first inch of rainwater, the first flush is what we call it, is contained completely underground, and then for water quality events. This design meets both those standards. And on page 4 of the drainage report, there's a table that gives you the summary of the peak flows and runoff volumes for each of the lots. And if you do a cursory look at it, the last line of each table is the post-development, the middle line is the pre-development, and the posts are always lower than the pre. The conclusion is the use of 10 Coltech 330s on Lot 1, 9 Coltech 330XL on Lot 2 will be more than sufficient to meet the design objectives. And I go on from there. This design was done based upon deep test hole data and percolation test data that were performed in the field. On June 14th, a memo was sent from Laura Pulley, the town engineer, or assistant town engineer, I'm not sure of her title, to Jim Wendt. And this was concerning the Cremona subdivision, and there were a few things that she wanted to do, and we have done all these items. And there's 8 things listed. Talked about the drainage is adequate and meets this department's requirements for stormwater attenuation. So she had read our drainage report and says it's adequate. She mentions, which we know, that any work proposed in the Stilson Road right-of-way requires a permit from the state DOT, Department of Transportation. The state has all of these drawings, and we are in the process of talking to them, Ernie Lagoya and Paul Holmes. Number 3, show a pedestrian ramp meeting the state of Connecticut specifications at the corner of Pansy and Stilson. And that's one of those ramps with the orange bubble things. We did that. We provided a detail on one of the sheets. Number 4, the zone requires concrete curbs, sidewalks, and driveway aprons. Currently, there is no sidewalk or driveway on Pansy. Currently, there is an asphalt sidewalk on Stilson. That's going to stay. And we're going to provide a concrete sidewalk on Pansy. 5, on Lot 1, indicate that the roof leaders from the proposed house will be connected to the on-site detention shown on that lot. I don't know why we didn't do that in the first place, but we've done that. 6, provide a chamber with a sump and clean out to grade. And what that is, they're basically maps. And what they do is the roof water goes in there first. The leaves can settle out before the cleaner water then is discharged into the Coltex. So no leaves will get into the Coltex. That's basically what they're for. 7, applicant should demonstrate that each driveway has adequate sight lines. We'll be talking about that in 1 second. And then 8 was just she wanted additional data for the boundary, which we provided. I need to get that board, Jay. That one. What I'd like to do is read into the record the sightline analysis, and that was just handy to you tonight. If you could, I think it's 6 of 8. Yeah, you can take that one. Just for the record, these are site plan and profiles, and so the top part is as a bird's eye view of looking down, and then the bottom part of the map is as if you could cut away the road and look at all the features of the road that are along the sight line. The scale is slightly exaggerated for the vertical portion of it. And the reason you do that is visually it's just a lot easier to read. The report says this: this letter has been prepared in support of the proposed three-lot subdivision located at the northwest corner of Stilson and Pansy Road. The applicant is proposing to subdivide the .70 acre, we've already said all that. Access for Lot 2 and Lot 3 is proposed from Stilson Road via 2 existing curb cuts. Right now, there's 2 curb cuts. This drawing is existing conditions, and you can see the existing house with the double driveway and the 2 curb cuts. We are not moving them. We are utilizing 1 for each lot, is how we're doing that. The posted speed limit for Stilson Road is 30 miles per hour, and therefore the required sight distance is 335 feet, a Connecticut DOT intersection sight distance standard. Sight distance was measured 15 feet back from the road edge and at a height of 3.5 feet. Sight distance from the existing curb cut for the proposed Lot 2 is 680 feet to the southwest, that's toward the school, and 390 feet to the northeast, toward the post road. Sight distance from the existing curb cut of Lot 3, existing residence, is 725 feet toward the school and 360 feet toward the, Black Rock, I said Post Road, toward Black Rock. All sight distance for these 2 existing curb cuts significantly exceeds Connecticut DOT recommendations. The third lot, Lot 1, and that's what's before you now, has frontage on both Stilson Road and Pansy Road.
Actually, we don't have Lot 1 in front of us.
Oh, sorry.
Give Vanna a second here. He's doing good without an easel.
Oh, he's good.
Good teamwork.
We're not going to bring an easel anymore. We got Lot 1. The third lot, Lot 1, has frontage on both Stilson and Pansy Road. The proposed curb cut is on Pansy Road and has been located as far to the north along Pansy Road as the available frontage allows. In analyzing the Pansy Road sightlines condition, it must be acknowledged that the intersection of Pansy Road, Mayfair Road, and Stilson Road is signalized. There's a light there. Therefore, there is a condition that gives a green light to northbound traffic from Mayfair Road entering into Pansy Road without slowing down. The posted speed limit for Mayfair and Pansy is 25 miles per hour, and therefore the required sight distance is 280 feet. Again, sight distance was measured 15 feet back from the road edge, height of 3.5 feet. Available sight distance to the south across Mayfair Road is 420 feet. And Jay is showing where that is. To the north along Pansy Road is 450 feet, both well in excess of Connecticut DOT standards. The need to see around the corner, quote unquote, onto Stilson Road is not required, as it is assumed that traffic turning onto Pansy Road has slowed sufficiently to allow for the proper reaction time from a driveway this far from the intersection. However, it should be noted that the sight lines from the proposed Pansy Road curb cut and traffic lanes from Stilson Road, east and westbound traffic, is free from obstruction. Now, I say, please see sheet 6 of 8 for a plan and profile depicting the sightlines for Lot 1. Similarly, sheet 7 of 8 and 8 of 8 is for Lot 2 and Lot 3. These plan and profiles document that there are no vertical curves or other obstructions that would interfere with the necessary required sight distances. All profiles are measured from an observer in the middle of the driveway, 15 feet back from the edge of the curb. The eye is at a height of 3.5 feet. The object to be seen is also 3.5 feet high. This was done for all 3 sheets and done at the direction of the town. In contrast, sightline distances for all 3 lots are also found in a table on sheet 3 of 8. You can turn to that. That's going to be down in the pack.
Same as on the rendering. Yes.
If you notice on this sheet in the upper left-hand corner, there's a table of sight distances. These distances are greater than the ones that are on the plan and profiles. And the reason why, as we state, it says, note that for the table, the observer is 10 feet back from the face of the curb, 5 feet closer to the road, and so, not surprisingly, the measured sightline distances are longer than what is measured depicted on the plan and profiles. In April of 2013, the 10-foot was a standard practice for single-family residence driveways. So that's why we did this back in October, was because that's how you did it. Then they pulled, no, we want 15 feet back, and so that's why we did that in the plan and profile. So we had longer ones there, we have shorter ones now, but they're still in excess.
Mr. Hammonds, could you go back for a second? One of Ms. Pooley's comments is the applicant should demonstrate that each driveway has adequate sight lines, especially for Lot 1, as 110 feet is indicated. Provide design speed used and required distances compared to available distances shown on the plan. And I understand you've given us the speed for Stilson Road, Route 135, and you fall within that. Then you made a comment about cars turning from Stilson to the right. Had cars going southwest on Stilson turning to the right onto Pansy Road.
Yes.
You assume they've come down and to whatever speed. I don't think you gave us could you talk about that analysis? Now, how do we know the cars aren't turning at 20 miles an hour into that street, and that at 110 feet or whatever you have, that would not be enough if someone's backing out and someone just comes around the green light?
That's a reasonable question. That analysis is basically constantly done. I mean, we have an enormous number of corner lots that have driveways within 100 feet or so. So we felt the more important analysis is when the light was green and people from Mayfair are coming up Pansy Road. And the posted speed limit for Pansy and Mayfair is lower than the posted speed limit for Stilson. You'd
have a longer line of sight, though, from Mayfair because you're looking straight, as opposed to the cars on Stilson are coming over your shoulder if you're
Correct.
pulling out of the driveway. Or,
Yeah.
Did you factor that in the line of sight, cutting the corner to see those cars coming around at all?
Yes, we did. Yes.
how do you look at that?
If you notice, when you're in your driveway at that 15 feet back, you'll be able to see a portion of Stilson Road. In other words, you're not going to be surprised by a car driving up to T-bone you. You'll see it making the turn. So there'll be, in my opinion, sufficient reaction time for that. Now, Laura.
Commissioner Leslie?
Are the hedges there now?
Yes.
And you plan on leaving the hedges?
Yes, and we've noted that, go ahead.
Mr. Fain, you have to use the microphone. We can't. No, just because we can't. We're recording. That's why.
The required required site walks, I think, will require removal of the hedges, so I don't think they're going to be able to remain.
Because it says here on your plans, existing hedges to be maintained at 3 feet high max, which...
That's above the 3.5.
And
That's
the second grade is 2.5 feet tall, walking back and forth to and from school.
Yeah. We will remove the hedges, but for the sightline analysis, they will be below the eye of the observer. Ms. Pulley wrote a letter to Jim Wint that we received today, and I'm going to read this into the record. She says, Jim, I had the opportunity to review the newly submitted sightline analysis in response to one of my prior comments of June 14th. That's what I read to you before. The analysis and revised plans were prepared by me and dated June 23rd According to the report, the applicant has demonstrated that adequate sight distance is available from the 3 driveways using the proper posted speed limit. 2 of the driveways currently exist, while the third is proposed to enter onto Pansy Road. Mr. Hammonds discusses the criteria used for this driveway and the impact from the signalized intersection. The minimum available sightline is 420 feet for Lot 1 looking south. That sightline distance can support an 85th percentile speed of just under 50 miles per hour. Of course, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Hammond? Yeah, okay. Commissioner Kelly, sorry, Commissioner. Oh, Commissioner Parker.
Oh, yeah.
On the school parking lot there on Pansy Road, school buses don't use that at all, I don't think. That's parent and...
My children go to McKinley,
I think it's
or
a
they
parking
did.
lot from Pansy Road.
I think that's the teacher parking lot, yeah.
teacher. Okay.
Yeah, the circle comes in from,
Stilson.
Stilson Road, there's a loop that goes back out again. There's actually almost 3 lots there, there's a loop.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure of that.
No, it's a good point.
Mr. Hammond, my question for you is regarding the sight lines for the 3 driveways. Are you a traffic engineer?
No.
Okay. The reason I ask you is because we have had other representatives who are traffic engineers, and again, I may be remembering this incorrectly, that rather than the posted speed limit being the basis for the sight line, it was supposed to be, I believe, the median speed there. I believe it might have been the 85th percentile is based on the studies of these areas done by, I guess, state DOT. So in other words, it wouldn't be that, say, 25 miles an hour would be the basis. It might be that that was somewhat higher. For example, I can recall when we had an application at near Putting Hill Lane and Stratfield Road. For example, the speeds obviously there on 59 were faster than the posted speeds based on that traffic data. Maybe I misunderstood, but are these calculations based on that?
No, they're based on this posted speed limit.
Posted speed limit,
Yeah.
not the...
Not the 85th percentile, but
no.
as Ms. Pulley's note pointed out. However, with the sight lines, the Mayfair and the Pansy ones still exceed the 85th percentile, which we have knowledge of based upon the application of the subdivision next to Osborne Hill School several years ago.
Right.
Okay, that was a full week-long traffic study done. So we used that information, and we're greater than that. But on Stilson, we call the state. And the state will tell you, like, for example, for the post road, it's always 85th percentile. If it's a busy road, it's always 85th percentile. They gave us the posted speed limit.
So the state is telling you that the posted speed limit as opposed to the median or 85th percentile is the appropriate?
It seems...
The actual, is the, compared to
we
the actual.
contacted-
You're using actual?
Yes, and we contacted the state about that specific question. Because the state has, I think you know this, Mr. Kelly, the state has data.
Right.
And we would have acquired that data if they said, no, you gotta do the 85th. We said, okay, tell us what the 85th is, and we'll do it.
I run that sometimes.
Mr. Barrett?
Yes, Mr. Hammond, I usually ask a lot of questions to the traffic engineers. I'd say you may have been attending some of our hearings in the past year, because as far as I can see, you use DOT standards, and you use intersection sight distance.
ISDs, yes.
ISD, not SSD.
That's correct.
And you showed your design speeds, or you described the design speeds, and you described how you measure the sight lines. So I don't really have any questions to make sure that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, Mr. Barrett,
confirm you did all those things, and those are things sometimes we have to like confirm, or they weren't done, or just even basically understand. So I do appreciate getting this analysis.
Well,
I
thank
say this
you.
to you because you appeared for us before, and we see a lot of Mr. Fitzpatrick also. And
Yes, I
I'm
know.
saying from my standpoint, this is what we usually ask for. And
Mr.
it's
Galante,
nice to
yeah.
receive it. I don't really have any questions from you other beyond what my
just
colleagues.
so you know, Mr. Barrett, what we actually do is we physically set up our total station, the measuring gun, at 3.5 feet. And we set our prism at 3.5 feet. So it's not like we shoot everything and then we put it on a computer and try to figure it out. We actually physically put that there on the ground. And then we know for sure, is that bush too high, is that tree in the way, then we know. And that's how we do it.
I appreciate you describing how it was measured. sometimes that's difficult to ascertain. So
Thank you.
I just want to go back to something you were dealing with earlier. Just to confirm, the Pansy Road sidewalk will be concrete,
That's correct.
and the sidewalk on Stilson will be,
Remain asphalt. It's asphalt
Why?
currently. And you have to ask Mr. Fay that question.
I thought our regulations required in a subdivision that it be concrete.
And I believe it's the state has the right to determine what that sidewalk stays or not, but Mr. Fain was dealing with that part of it, not me. But you'd like Mr. Fain to sit up?
You can answer the question.
We will do whatever is required. Since it's existing as asphalt, we thought the asphalt could remain. If it's required to be concrete, we will certainly make it concrete.
Anything else, sir? And then Mr. Fitzpatrick, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, the one thing I'd like to hand in, I only have one copy, is a copy of the Frederick P. Clark traffic study for the Pansy Road, Pansy Circle development, which does show the 85th percentile of the speed on Pansy at this point in time to be 35 miles per hour, which is satisfied with the site distances we have.
Thank you.
My only other comment on the sight line is that the driveways on Stilson, they're existing driveways. One is for an existing house. It's a U driveway, so we're utilizing the other driveway for the second house, which is new. And that's not by mistake. That's because the state has approved those. We can keep those as of right, and that's what we're going to utilize. If I might now conclude, the Town Plan and Zoning Commission acts in an administrative capacity in exercising its function in approving or disproving a subdivision application. That's the Reed case, Reed versus Planning and Zoning Commission, 208 Connecticut 431, a 1998 Connecticut Supreme Court case, as well as the Weatherly case, Weatherly versus Town Plan and Zoning Commission, 23 Connecticut Appellate 115, a 1990 case. The commission is controlled by the applicable regulations in reviewing a subdivision application. This is the Town of Westport versus City of Norwalk case, 167 Connecticut 151, a 1974 case. To quote, "Because a commission is not a court of law, its authority is stringently limited. It can only apply its regulations to the proposals which appear before it. It cannot make law." End quote. That's citing the Weatherly case again, 23 Connecticut Appellate 115. Lastly, the case of Garrison v. Planning Board of the City of Stamford, 66 Connecticut Appellate 317, a 2001 case states, and I quote, "At the outset, we note that the commission acted in its administrative capacity. As such, it has no discretion or choice but to approve a subdivision if it conforms to the regulations adopted for its guidance." End quote. In this matter, I'd submit this application conforms in all respects to the relevant zoning regulations as well as the subdivision regulations. The minimum lot area requirements are satisfied, the minimum square requirements are satisfied. There's absolutely no road construction proposed. The Conservation Department reviewed this, found it is beyond their jurisdiction, and as such, there's no conservation approval necessary for the subdivision. The proposed drainage plan has been reviewed and approved by the Town of Fairfield Engineering Department, as has Mr. Hammond's sightline analysis. I would, if I could take a few brief minutes of the Commission's time, outline a little of the history of this parcel, which I thought was really pretty interesting. I asked Angela Toner, one of the heirs of Joseph Cremona, her grandfather, to give me a brief family history. Her grandparents were both born in 1884 in the Lombardy region of Italy, arrived at Ellis Island in 1910. They lived on Chambers Street in Fairfield, raised 5 children there, and in the 1950s, their home was purchased by the government in connection with the construction of I-95. It's unfortunate, I remember that as well. In 1952, they purchased a home here, which was built in 1834 on 2 acres of land at the corner of Stilson and Pansy. When their oldest son Leslie married, the grandparents gave him a portion of their piece, which is now 36 Pansy Road. When their youngest daughter Ann was married, they gave her a parcel of land as well, which is now 660 Stilson. Angela's grandparents lived in the remaining property, the house at 680, which is being saved. And when her grandfather retired, he became a full-time farmer. The farm extended to the rear of the property with fruit trees, grape arbors. Her grandparents jarred all the fruits using their outdoor fireplace, and they canned tomatoes, pickles, beans, made jelly and applesauce. There's over 250 ball jars in the basement of that house today. As Angela, I don't know whether I would eat one, but that's another issue. As Angela related, it was a wonderful place to grow up. The kids were able to walk to Osborne Hill School in Fairfield Woods. They could sled and back. They could play badminton, horseshoe, volleyball all summer. Angela's Uncle Joe was the last of the family to live in the house. He died in 2005. Angela and her family did not want to sell anything until her parents had passed. Her mother died in 2010. It's the family's belief that despite the fact this property has been in their family for decades, that now is the time to move on. The Cremona family has literally owned this property for generations, and they're entitled to utilize the property in accordance with the applicable regulations. I believe this application complies with the applicable regulations. For the reasons I've outlined, I'd request it be approved. Mr. Hammonds, Mr. Fain, and I would be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you, Attorney Fitzpatrick. Commissioner Suter.
Yes, I've passed by this building many times, and it struck me as being exceedingly old, and you say it was built in 1834, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, porte-cocheres are very unusual attachments to houses.
Right.
And the plan is to retain the structure, not to demolish it.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Suter. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, we will ask if there's any member of the public who would like to comment on this application. If there is, just please come up one at a time to the podium and just give us your name and address. Again, any member of the public who wishes to comment? Sir.
Yes, good evening. My name's John Serio. I live at 36 Pansy Road, which is the property that abuts lot number 1. I have no problems with the development. I'm all in favor. I've been living there for 14 years. I think it should be developed. However, I do have some concerns, being that I am a self-employed person and I am there as when the school kids for Osborne are being dropped off and being picked up at the end of the day and certain activities are going on. This 25-mile-an-hour speed limit is a joke, okay? Anybody that lives in the area knows that. People that come whipping around from Stilson, from either direction. I've had one incident where I was home and a kid came from Stilson, turning left onto Pansy, went up on my driveway, turned into the driveway of the school, up on the curb, and wound up in one of the parking spaces in the school. Luckily, no kids were there. Nobody was hit. And I asked this young man, I said, "What is the matter with you?" He says, "Oh, I just drove too fast," and everything like that. Now, just recently, my neighbor on 50 Pansy Road had their mailbox knocked down. That would be this mailbox here. That looks like the new one. Somebody came up on my curb from around the corner and then demolished, hit the street sign here and demolished their mailbox. So this 25-mile-an-hour thing that Mr. Fain referred to is a joke, quite honestly. People use the street for a cut-off, a cut-through, as I think everybody knows here, to get to Black Rock Turnpike. So it's not just an ordinary run-of-the-mill intersection. It's a very busy intersection with traffic, you know, what do you call, the guys that cross the kids? Crossing guards, right. And there are kids crossing all over the place. Moms picking up kids. The cars are parked all along the opposite side of the street from me and further down. Now, when he mentioned sight lines to Pansy Circle, that is basically irrelevant. That is not where the danger zone really actually is. The danger zone is when they turn around onto Pansy and gun the cars and the motorcycles. And I have often, many times, and friends of mine have often almost gotten nailed, T-boned, if you may, by pulling out of our driveway. Now, this new driveway, which is going to be even closer, is not obviously going to give this person whipping around the corner enough time. And, you know, to me, it doesn't matter how many, I'm just speaking from somebody that's lived there for 14 years and has seen what's going on as far as the speeding and disobeying of the traffic. Like I said, the speed limit is irrelevant. So that's my main concern about the proposed driveway on Pansy Road. Sight lines or not, you know, conforming or not, I just don't think I think it's adding more congestion, more capability for accidents to children, and because there are a lot of children running around, they sometimes run across the street. I've seen it because I'm home during those times. And my front window faces right across from Osborne Hill School. So I see the chaos that goes on out there. And I don't know if there's anybody else that lives in the area here, I guess not, that does. So, that being said, I also have questions about the proposed driveway on lot number 1, if you look at that. Now, I was told by Mr. Fain that this is just a proposal. I mean, I'm saying, like, if this is approved by the commission as far as, and you feel that this is safe, this is not going to be an increased, you know, danger to children and people crossing there's 4 crosswalks as you look at this drawing here. 4 different crosswalks being used by children at all times. And speeding cars, college kids, whoever, drunken people, motorcycles, and when they hit that straightaway, they see that Pansy Road straightaway, they gun it. And I can tell you that firsthand. So, is it written in stone that this driveway would abut so close to my house? I mean, can that be the proposed driveway where it bulges out over here? If you can see that?
We see on the map, we know you.
Yeah. I would feel more comfortable if that whole area was more on this side of the house here, which Mr. Fain said it's not possible to do, but, and I guess you cannot, as he said, require a builder of a house to go by certain specifications. Is that correct?
We can't dictate the design of the house. They can
Right.
make an application in.
Right.
We can approve or deny it based upon the site plan. We don't have the jurisdiction to approve. I know you suggested in your email, you know, the garage doors, which way they face.
Yeah.
I mean, if it has something to do with the driveway, you know, we can reject it on the grounds of the location of a driveway. We cannot design the house for people. We can't tell them what it's going to look like, where they're going to put their driveway. If it complies with their regulations, it complies.
Is there any regulation as far as how close a driveway can be to a property line?
There's sideline distances, which I believe, no, the driveway itself, no, the building, no, the driveway. I mean, it appears they've drawn their driveway as close to the sideline as yours is drawn, isn't that correct?
According to the scale, it's roughly 5 feet. The bulging area there where the turnaround, whatever it is roughly about 5 feet from my property line, which to me seems a little close. I don't know. I have a copy of this. I don't know. Is there
No, you know, if there's a violation, the staff would alert us to the sideline. There's no sideline for the paved driveway. The building, there is a sideline, but you can pave. It has to be on your property. You can put your driveway against your property line. Many houses have them right against the property lines.
Really?
Driveways, sure.
Okay.
A lot of neighborhoods take a look at where they put the driveways. That's common. I mean, my house, many of the other commissioners' houses, I know driveways are at property lines. In some cases, shared driveways where they let each other. Or shared line in the middle.
Okay. So, barring all the safety issues that I could foresee there, like I said, I've been a resident there for 14 years, and I'm happy to see it be developed. But the other question is the setbacks on the lot. Now, you're allowed to have on side setbacks, according to the regulations, no less than 25 feet between the two
That's both sides.
for buildings of more than 1 story, right?
That's both sides total. Combined total.
Both sides total.
No less than 7 on there.
Minimum of 7 on one side, but no less than 25 combined. So if you have 7 on one side, you have to have 18 on the other side.
Okay, so then that's within the regulation on both sides
If
here.
you look at the box, there should be a box on the top of the drawing where that's specified.
Yeah, 22 feet on one side, right? On the Pansy side to the lot, that's 22 feet.
Which lot are you looking
22 feet?
25 side property.
at? What lot are you looking at, sir?
Lot 1.
Lot 1 is, the setback from the street line is 32 feet. From one side property line is 12.4, from the rear is 31.8.
That's not I have 22 feet from lot 1 to Pansy Road as a setback.
Maybe you can bring that up. The applicant can address that when we come back.
Corner line setback. 31 street, 22.
Which should staff make it?
On a corner lot, there are 2 street lines. Required to be 32 on, 22 on the other.
So that's within...
They're proposing 29.3, which is showing the setback box.
The setback has to be 22. 22 is the minimum setback required.
It's 29.
And they're showing this longer one. They're showing where 22 is, and they're actually further back to 29. There's no house at 22. That's the
That's,
setback.
yeah, this is, it's a
I was assuming this squared in area is the lot.
No,
No,
that's,
it's the
that's
darker
where they
area.
could have built their house.
Right.
The lot is the darker line, so this is the lot. So we're
Dotted, the darker dotted.
The darker line with the north and the number of feet.
Okay.
All right.
Well, my other question is then, Angela Kennedy and I have spoken, and we decided that maybe we might want to put a buffer of some sort between, maybe like arborvitae trees or something like that. Now, is that something we...
Who's Angela?
Angela Kennedy is the niece of Joe Cremona? Okay.
One of the applicants.
Yeah, one of the applicants. Okay, so can we discuss that? There's no requirement for a builder as far as
There's no
anything like that?
In this zone for residential, we do not have landscaping requirements. We
No
have certain
landscaping.
commercial zones, design commercial, other commercial zones.
Right.
We have no landscaping requirement here. If you
Okay.
want to discuss something with her and reach
Yeah.
an agreement, you can, let us know. Her attorney could let us know.
Right.
I cannot force.
Right, okay. Well, thank you. I just hope that you can take into consideration the safety about this. Like I said, I don't really feel any you know, animosity about the development. It's just that the safety, that, you know, it's something to consider.
If you want to see the property lines, Mr. Hammonds will be glad to show you on your map. He can show you in a second which is the property line, if you'd like.
Okay.
Is there any other member of the public who wishes to comment? Hearing none, Mr. Fitzpatrick? I had a question for you. On the driveway for Lot 1, am I correct that that's a driveway where you could turn around and come out, nose
Yes,
out as well?
and I was going to make that point, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to accept the condition of approval that the driveways be able to accommodate a turnaround, because the whole idea is to be able to head out. It's just,
It looks like they designed it, Mr. Hammonds, they designed it that way,
I
right?
think that's correct. That's why that area is there.
Yeah.
Or for basketball court?
Court too, basketball.
Yes, yes, more importantly.
Yeah.
A couple of points, Mr. Chairman, if I might. You have documentary evidence of what the 85th percentile of the speed is on Pansy Road, and that is satisfied by the available site distance. It meets the legal requirements. Residence A zones.
Is there an agreement about arborvitae, or that's just a discussion they're having?
I would prefer to leave it that, you know, my client will try to work with Mr. Serio to see if we can accommodate something. The fact of the matter is, even if you impose it, the first buyer can take it out. And it is next to Mr. Serio's garage, not, you know, it's not exactly next to the living room. But we will try to work with him on the driveway location. Obviously, you don't want to flip the driveway to the other side of the house and make it closer to the intersection. But we will accept that approval of condition that there be the ability to turn a car around on site. Incidentally, these are pro forma houses. These are not, you know, necessarily the house that's going to be built. We try to put a house of a reasonable size and configuration, and obviously we're going to comply with all setbacks. We don't get a building permit if we don't produce a plan that shows we comply with all setbacks. And the Residence A zone references specifically corner lots, so there are corner lots all over the town of Fairfield. And those corner lots, by definition, if you contain less than 10,000 square feet and you're on a corner, you're going to have a driveway somewhat near that intersection. And that's just the nature of the beast. In this case, they have an advantage in that there's a traffic light there. You know, when that turns red, you know you've got some time. To sum up, you know, my basic contention remains the same. We believe our application satisfies the regulations, and that the Cremona family has the right and the ability to subdivide their property as we proposed, and we believe this application is worthy of your approval. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Any further questions for Attorney Fitzpatrick? Hearing none, this will close the hearing, public hearing on 680 Stilson Road.
Thank you very much.
Next item is a public hearing on 620 Villa Avenue. Special exception application of Mike Shulman for expansion of an existing car wash use in a design commercial district.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Mike Shulman. I'm the owner-operator of Russell Speeder's Car Wash, and I received a letter several months ago from the town referring to the vacuum. So I'm going to give a brief story, even though I've already laid it out here. So the car wash was built in 1962. At that point, they had 3 full-service vacuums to vacuum out the insides of the cars. Over the years, they did a pretty good business, and I guess in 2000, I have the records, and the volume started to go down. And about 2011 or 12, they closed, and then we took it over. In my application to the building department, I submitted that we would replace all of the car wash equipment, and then we replaced the vacuum systems with a self-service vacuum. And I basically saw ourselves as taking the 3 full services with about 10 drops of vacuum positions, and we put in 8 self-service vacuums on the side of the building. I saw it basically as just a format or a reconfiguration of the use of the property. We've done this a couple times before, so I didn't see it as something that we were doing incorrectly or, you know, trying to do something wrong.
Sean, I have 2 questions before you get too far here. And one is just a something you may want to address at some point. The second may be better directed to staff. The first is, you received an order to comply April 24th, 2013 by our staff, ordering you to discontinue or remedy the violations and conditions of the premises. And it sounds from what you've submitted, you've done nothing to discontinue or remedy the violations other than providing us an explanation and asking for a special exception.
Okay.
As opposed to discontinuation. That's the first comment that maybe you want to address. And number two is to the staff. It sounds like the problem here, one of the problems here is that parking spaces are being utilized by this business for vacuuming cars, for detailing cars, etc. And Mr. Shulman is, as I understand it, is the tenant of this property. Do we have, number one, enough parking at this lot to reduce the number of spaces? Are there excess spaces? And number two, is the right applicant before us on this on a procedural basis? Should this be the owner of the property where the lots are actually located, the spaces are located? This is what I'm getting this, and I don't know if that's Mr. Shulman who should address it or a combination, but this is not his property where he has got the detailing and all this activity going on. And that's why I don't know how to, I don't know who
I can address that for you, maybe to help you out.
Go ahead, if there's remaining questions,
Thank you.
Okay. On the first one, I received the letter on the 24th. There was 3 issues there. There was a building sign, there was stripes that were painted, and then there was this issue of the vacuums. I took down the sign within 1 day of receiving the letter. We repainted the lines on the ground, and I went down to the zoning office to discuss the issue about what was going on. And it was my understanding that when I left, that if I was able to come back with an explanation of what was going on, that would be the procedure that would be acceptable. At least that was my understanding or perception of the situation.
So what lines did you put back? I understand the sign. What lines
Okay.
did you do back?
So if you take a look, I can show you here.
You may want to hold up so all the commissioners can see, though. And you have to stay by the microphone, too, so we can hear you at the same time. So it's a combination of, we got your drawings. So the lines you just indicated for the record are the lines that basically, if one were to pull in from, Greenfield Street. If one were to pull in from Greenfield Street, there's a line that you go into the facility to get your car washed. You can theoretically drive straight through the parking lot, the Kohl's parking lot. You drew that line back in there? Is that, or maybe Mr. Wendt could,
Yeah, let me address
so we understand.
Jim Wendt, for the record. First of all, with respect to the ownership, there's a separate parcel on the corner, and then there's the Kohl's property. The underlying property owner is the same for both parcels. Mr. Shulman is the tenant of the corner lot, and Kohl's is the tenant of this lot, but the property owners are the same. What happened here is, and I don't know if you can see this from here, if you can, is if you've been out there, the vacuums are along the back of the building. And if you have the site plan, there was a curb there between. The curb was removed so that for a car to utilize the vacuum, they pull up to the vacuum through from here, basically, from this side of the Kohl's parking lot.
Are those spaces that are supposed to be used by the car wash or for Kohl's?
Well, they're on the Kohl's property. They're not on the car wash property. I don't have the answer to the question that was asked initially, are the right number of spaces available? Given the day-to-day uses of Kohl's, there's generally parking available. I don't know the technical answer to that, but our concern was that the customers were, because these parking space stripes along here were the ones that were removed, were coming in this curb cut, driving up to the vacuum through the other site. So the use of the vacuum was not contained to the car wash site. It was spilling over into the adjacent site, and that was the situation that we had not had the opportunity to review or approve, hence this application. I'll let Mr. Shulman answer that as to whether or not the landlord was in the loop, but we were not.
There was a curb of about 25 feet in length There was not a curb the entire distance. I actually have a picture from the 1960s or 70s that shows the exit lane. Most or all car washes have what's called an escape lane, so on a busy day, if there's a car that has a problem, it's able to leave without causing congestion to the line that's trying to get through the car wash. There was also drums of chemical prior to our company taking over that were stored on the side of the property there, prior to us getting there. And then next to that, there was an old detailing tent. What's that? Was Coles there then?
Caldors.
Well, it was probably Caldors. But Coles was actually there when they operated at the end, which is there was still drums there was detailing, and there was an escape lane. So there was about 25 feet of curbing, but I got rid of the detail tent, I got rid of the drums, and the vacuuming is being done on the car wash property. If you take a look, I put a picture in from the 1970s. There was nobody parking in those spots then. There is probably 5 to 15 people a week that use those spots to access Subway or the dry cleaners or the nail salon that's over there. I've spent about 5 months there working in the facility. That entrance to Kohl's is very, very rarely used. I would say it's less than 150 people per day, just because of the configuration of the property.
So who removed the curb?
I did.
And you removed the curb because you wanted cars to be able to pull into the lot through the Kohl's entrance and pull up to the vacuums to use the vacuums?
To be able to access the vacuums on the car wash property, yes.
Okay.
Did you get anybody's approval to do that?
I didn't know.
Since nobody parks on that side of the property, I didn't think it was a problem.
Where do the employees park for the business?
If you take a look at, I can try to describe it. Sorry about that. Okay, so right here is the former gas station with
Yeah.
the Subway and Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
These spots in this area, if you drove by it any day, and some of my pictures will show that where the casino bus comes to pick up and drop off, the people from that shopping center, the Subway, Dunkin' Donuts, they park behind that building, as do our people, and that's where the people from the buses pick up and drop off. So those are those spots. I also worked there the day after Thanksgiving, which is the worst day of the year. And that day, there was probably still at noontime, which I thought was the busiest period of the day, there was probably 60 to 70 spots on the parking lot that were still available.
It may be, and it's a large parking lot, so, but as part of your lease, are you entitled to use parking, or are you supposed to be using parkings in the Kohl parking lot?
Well, I'm not actually using them. We're allowed to use the movement of the car over the parking lot, but we're not using those parking spaces are not being worked. There's no customers using those spots. They're just driving over them.
Okay, I don't want to split hairs with you, but your employees are parking in that parking lot, right?
Yes.
Okay, and when people pull in to use the vacuum cleaners, their cars are on that lot area?
No, nobody uses those parking spots. The only 2 spots that are used are out closest to the street, and people from the diner use those spots. So those parking spots are not used.
Okay, so when somebody pulls in and they use the vacuums, their car is not in the spaces on the Kohl's lot?
Correct, they're not. They're on the car wash property.
So, how many parking spaces are on your parcel?
How many parking spaces are on the car wash property?
Yeah.
There's none, and there never has been any since 1962.
The problem I have, and maybe someone can help me, my concern is the slippery slope we're here. We don't know the number of spaces in the Kohl's lot, and we grant this application and say, sure, you can take the curb down, you can eliminate 20 spaces, pick a number on the Kohl's lot to access your lot for vacuuming or detailing.
I think your mic's on.
If we essentially, I guess the question that I have is, the concern is, if we were to go and grant this application and say, yes, Mr. Shulman, you're okay in taking the curb down, eliminating 20 spaces, whatever number in the Coles lot to access your property for the vacuuming and for the detailing, you know, we've essentially, and if that number should reduce the number on the Coles lot to below the minimum required number that they have for their property, we've essentially given a variance to the Coles property by reducing parking. So the next time someone comes in on Black Rock and says, hey, look what you did on Coles, you told them, I've got extra spaces too in the Gap Plaza, so let's throw some more businesses in there.
And
I
we
don't
don't
know that
even
we have
know
the jurisdiction to do that.
And
so.
we don't even know if the property owner consents to this. I mean, we understand that you say that and you're being cooperative with them.
That's a good point.
And so, I don't necessarily dispute that there's a cooperative relationship.
I understand, but you don't have record of it.
It's not in front
You're
of
right,
us.
what if the owner should come in of Coles and wants to do a second floor and he can't do it because we've given up his parking spaces?
Just,
Yeah, Mr. Canelli.
the goal of, is that we have the right folks in front of us. And to give you another example, we have a property owner who comes in who has a number of businesses at the Sportsplex and has been trying to work in terms of this rolling effort to see what parking will fit at the Sportsplex over on Mill Plain Road near the train station. And the property owner comes in and makes those applications to us saying, well, we have another tenant, we have something here on the property. So, you're just a guy trying to make his business work, and regulations, you're trying to figure it out. And you're right, look, I park behind the subway instead of going in the crappy little lot there because it's so tight with my minivan. I go right behind there and I walk around to the subway. So, and I know, I agree, I having been there almost a lot, I'm getting my wife coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, I'll walk around, and you're right, in that frontal area, there isn't a lot of parking. So from real-time experience with what you're dealing with, it makes some sense. But here's the thing, the procedure, it seems, that's more sensible would be for the property owner or their representative to be able to, and even if there's a little bit of a hassle and stuff, to come here and say, I rent to Kohl's, I rent to you, I have to make sure that, my lawyer or somebody checks to make sure that I don't do something irretrievably wrong to this property by letting the commission do this, that, makes it impossible for my large retail tenant to properly be able to be, do its business under the law. So I think that's what's being said here. It's not, these regulations are there not so, not to, to hamstring you and to frustrate you with regulation and mess up your business, but it is to make sure that the future stuff that we have to deal with this, that's all we're saying. So it may be better for us to postpone this or move this and give you an opportunity to talk with that landlord and see, because they probably want you to succeed, but we can't bend our regulations to help you succeed because then we have all these other things. So anyway.
I'm deaf in that ear, I'm sorry.
So just to try to understand.
Okay. I think
You know what I'm saying?
Mr. Hoffman lives in Fairfield, so I'm sure I can get him here.
Commissioner Barrett and then Commissioner.
Yep. Okay, so then I'll go back and get him and then the other, okay. And then I'll check on the number of spots within the Coles and make sure that the regulation, it fits.
Before you leave, I think there might be a few more questions, and we'll keep the hearing open for you, so you don't have to start all over again. But, Mr. Barrett, you have... while we have some fresh questions in mind.
If this was granted, the ingress from your property is just at this one area on Greenfield Street, is that correct?
The ingress is from Greenfield Street, correct?
How clearly is that marked that when they go in there? Is there entrance signs or something?
There's no entrance sign. No, I forget the regulation, but, I can put an entrance sign on there.
No, I'm not saying you should, I was wondering like, how do people know how traffic's supposed to flow through that area?
I would assume, I'm not saying this is 100% correct, but I would assume based since it's been there since 1962. I think most people, I was there this evening working on another issue, and, people attempt occasionally come in by the subway side and make a right turn, which is, you can't physically do it, but I would say 90.
I drove in through Cole's parking lot myself, and I've been in this area all my life, but I just hadn't been, I went to your car wash, and I got some bad looks from people that don't do that again, but it definitely wasn't clear to me the
Okay,
proper ingress.
so I can go back that with the landlord and discuss the,
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
But that's sort of our point, right, is that, you took down the curb, we kind of got these vacuums there now, it's sort of a spillover, it's kind of like who knows where to go with what, and, okay, gee, I'm in the Coles and I'll just scoot over there to the car wash and pull in and get my car wash, I'll pull up to the vacuum, I'll vacuum, and then I'll go around, and it's like,
The only thing I'd say, as you discuss this with your landlord and come back to us when we keep the hearing open, and is that, we often, actually up Black Rock Turnpike, look to have shared parking, to try to break down these kinds of curbs between businesses. But what we need is a plan that makes
Works.
clear to drivers. In other words, yeah, exactly, that helps with traffic flow. But what I'm saying is that we actually have argued in favor of what, in a sense, of what you've done, which is to break down some of these artificial barriers if it's done correctly. If it's
Okay.
done with the striping and things that are necessary, if it ensures that the parking is correct.
Thanks. Yeah, so just to build on that for a moment, I mean, maybe when you look at this constructively, all of those spaces along your property line shouldn't be there. I mean, if we want to just have a car wash in the corner of the lot and you want to have some vacuum stations, maybe that whole area should be redesigned.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I don't know. That's just a suggestion.
Look at Fred's in Southport, to pick an example, a place we're used to going to. Where you drive in, you've got the vacuums, the way it's set up, and it's clear that when you go in, there's only one way to go in. You don't go through the car wash backwards. You go in, you vacuum your car, nose in, you back out, and then you're right in the line or in the queue.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes sense, so there's never confusion as to how to do it. That's what we're talking about. some kind
And there's
of
arrows and
overall
stuff,
Okay.
you know, yeah. So my other question, sir. Do you, I take it this is probably not your first Russell Speeders?
Not, no.
No, yeah, so just in Connecticut? I'm just curious.
We operate in Ohio, Nebraska, and Florida.
So how many car washes do you own?
I'm involved in 17.
Excellent, excellent. And has it been a good transition from Villa to Speeders?
Once the weather breaks, I can tell you.
Okay.
The
yeah.
weather hasn't been on our side, but
Yeah, it's been raining a lot.
we're holding our own.
Yeah, all right. Well, good luck. I mean, I hope it,
Thank you.
succeeds.
Commissioner Alessi, then Commissioner Parker, please.
I have a question. When we approved this car wash, we approved dark sky at night lighting. I don't think the lighting on your building conforms to those specifications. Does it?
I can't tell you, I don't know the regulation. I can go back and before the next meeting, I can give you the answer correctly. I don't want to say yes or no. And I mean, my understanding is dark sky is, understanding, I'm not saying definition of law, but isn't that either going up or out
Down.
onto somebody else's property?
Down, yeah.
So the light doesn't go up when you look, it's all directed down towards the lot.
Including the one on the utility pole on the corner.
Okay, so I've since last September, we've had an issue with the lighting on the utility pole. We've had UI out there, I think 6 times now. We've adjusted the direction, we've adjusted the height of it, and we've put a timer on it. My understanding from UI, who owns the pole and owns the light, we just rent the light from, the use of the light from them. I've been told that we're in 100% compliance in the hour. We're shutting it off. We don't have it on as long as we can have it on. It doesn't have as much amperage as it's allowed to have, and the direction of it is correct. And I can go out and find out if that's
Would
correct.
that come under our regulation? It just seems to me that you got lights everywhere, you cut the curb, you do whatever you want, and now you come before us and say, can I have approval for something I already did? And it's, I don't know, I see a problem with this whole thing that's going on. It's like we just seem to be doing whatever we want down in that corner, and then we're coming here and saying, oh, I'm sorry, let me correct this, this, and this. And now we're gonna have a parking issue here, and we could say, hey, this car wash did it, why can't I just cut the curb to my neighbor's property at Chef's Table, and I can cut through on the backyard over there, this way I have to back out that driveway, then we have an issue back over there. I mean, it just leads to one thing after another, as far as I see it.
I understand what you're saying. I didn't install that light pole that
No,
we're
but you
referring
cut
to.
the curb.
Okay, but you were saying that I was just doing things, adding
Well,
light. No,
yeah.
I mean, there was a 25-foot section of curb, but there was drums there was vacuum cleaners, there was drums, there was a detail tent, and there was an escape lane. So it wasn't like I took 100 and 200 feet of curbing and completely changed the complexity. There was full-service vacuums there for 45 years or 48 years.
And they operated with the curb there.
The 25 feet, but the property is about 170 feet. And there was only 25 feet before.
No, I understand, but it
Take
was still there.
I
a look at the
heard.
light, there may be another way to do it. You've got the housing right across the street now they put in there that never used to be there. You can talk to the staff, they know our standards and what we like. Maybe keep everybody happy.
If there's a way to, I was in Germany and I got a phone call from one of the RTM representatives. I was in Germany responding to it. I called UI when I was there. I've dealt with other neighbor issues with we've added signage. The car wash has had the entrance on Greenfield since the beginning. I've added signage, no left turn, trying to appease the neighbors. We're cleaning litter. I've had our refuse company came at 2 o'clock in the morning once. I called them up twice. I mean, the owner of the refuse company told me that the person was terminated. They added somebody else. I mean, I'm not here to give anybody a hard time. I'm here to, work it out. And if there's a way to make the lighting work better, and if it's too high, or if the UI is wrong in the amperage, I don't have a problem in getting it, or foreseeing getting it fixed. That's just what I'm being told.
Commissioner Parker?
Okay. Yeah, I have a question because I paid for the expensive car wash, and I went through, the car wash, and then I was told to drive my car around the outside of the building, coming from the Villa Avenue side. I drove along past the vacuum cleaners, and then I parked facing into where the cars are coming into the car wash. And I assumed that I was on your property at that time. And I think what you're telling me now is I was not on your property. And had I fallen, would I have sued you? Would I have sued Coles?
All the work that we're talking about is being done on our property.
All the work was on your
100%.
property? Okay,
Yes.
that's what I wanted to be sure of.
While we're talking about being in compliance, a number of us went out there to take a look at this, and something bothered me when you first opened, and continues to bother me, and that is your illegal signs.
Okay.
As a reminder, we don't allow these kind of signs. You've got them all over the place in Fairfield, and these are like dandelions. They sprout up, and once you do it, everyone else wants to do it, because everyone wants to compete, but we have to make a level playing field, and that's something I think that you should take a look at.
I'll remove it.
Thank you. Well, there's not just this one, but
Whatever it is,
all of them. Whoever put them up, but tell them to go get them and put them.
I'll take care of it tonight myself.
Wherever else you got them.
I can handle it.
Are there any other questions? What I'll do, sir, I'll keep the hearing, Mr. Shulman, I'll keep the hearing open. We don't close it, and you don't have to apply and start all over again. And this way, you can coordinate with staff when you want to come back. And we'll talk, I'll go to the public too, there's public here. Maybe I'll have the public come up if they wish to comment tonight, so you can hear them, and maybe, that may help you. So, you'll get a chance to obviously speak again.
At the next hearing.
You can speak again after the public goes tonight, but clearly the next hearing you can speak again as well. So we will keep that open, and the staff will coordinate with you after tonight when you want that to be, so you're available, and you have time to talk about that.
I'll figure it out, and I'll speak with Mr. Hoffman, and we'll coordinate it.
And is there any member of the public that wants to speak now about this application? Speak at all, but not all at once. You gotta come up one at a time.
You're going to break.
Don't all point at each other, someone's gotta come up first. And again, just like the last one, just folks, you may come up, just give us your name and address, please. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commission members, my name is Paul Racci. I live at 82 Greenfield Street. And my family and I have the dubious honor of living directly adjacent to the Russell Speeder Car Wash. I've lived there for just over 5 years. My girlfriend and her children have been there for a little over 10 years. When I moved in 5 years ago, Villa Avenue Car Wash was still operating. It was obviously a well-established, long-time business with long-established customers and a procedure that they were all well aware of from years of patronage. When they went out of business, we enjoyed a considerable period of time with no neighbor across the street. The building remained, but there was no traffic, there was no anything going on. It was a closed business and just the building to look at. When Russell Speeder took over, they came in, and I will give them credit for having increased the curb appeal of the property tremendously from what it once was. We used to look at a royal blue building, which I guess if you like royal blue, that's fine, but it wasn't necessarily the prettiest looking building in town. When Russell Speeder came in, they immediately began their renovations. And in the process of those renovations, our problems with Russell Speeder began. They had several contractors there that removed some of the long, overgrown bushes that were growing. And when that happened, they displaced rats that wound up on our property, myself and the people who live next door to me at number 80 in the duplex that we reside in. I came home from work one night at 11 o'clock, and there was a rat running alongside my porch on the side of my house. We discussed it with Mr. Shulman. Some attempts were made to remedy that situation, and what that consisted of was a exterminating company coming out, placing unsightly rat traps on our property, and never coming to remove them. They were left there for a considerable amount of time. They also proceeded at the time to create a new facade on the building, a brick-faced facade, which looks beautiful. From the street, you can't tell that it's not a brick-faced building. However, the process that they used at the time required the contractors to utilize a form of tape that created the perception of brick. They went over that tape with a red material and then pulled the tape off, hence the look of brick. Well, that tape was wound up and allowed to blow across the street into my yard on numerous occasions. Never said a word about it. I tried to be a good neighbor because that's what we are. We live there. We're not operating a business. We live on that property. Things went along fairly smoothly for them, and when they opened, it's been a nightmare for us since then. I listened to Mr. Shulman. We have had several conversations. I've gone over and tried to be as gentlemanly as I can be, considering a certain number of things that have happened, which I'd like to lay out for you. I don't know how they'll apply, but they're things that I think, as the commission responsible for zoning, you should be aware of to take into consideration while you make a determination whether or not to accept or deny the application before you. One of the things is traffic coming down Greenfield Street, turning into the driveway on the side of the car wash. Their driveway is directly across from my private driveway. There are many times that cars coming down Greenfield Street wanting to make a left turn into Russell Speeders can't do so because of traffic coming up Greenfield Street from the old Stratfield direction toward Villa Avenue. And they have to wait in line, and they stack up in front of our house all the way out to the corner up to Villa Avenue. And when they do that, we can't get in or out of our driveway. At the same time, while the customers are attempting to make that left turn and can't, the people behind them who are not trying to turn in get frustrated and blow their horn repeatedly. They have driven over my lawn in an attempt to pass the cars that are waiting to make a left turn into the driveway. Mr. Shulman did put up a sandwich board sign that says no left turn. 75% of the people that turn into the driveway honor that. 25% don't care.
No left turn from
No left turn
Greenfield?
from Greenfield into the driveway of the car wash. And that would be heading west on Greenfield Street. Okay? The traffic concerns are such that I'm a police officer in another jurisdiction. I contacted Chief McNamara and in turn spoke with Captain Zabin from the police department. They are aware of the petition that we have sent to them asking for a traffic study because of the numerous traffic violations that go on there, the cars that cross the yellow line to pass the vehicles attempting to get in or out of the car wash, the cars that have driven over my sidewalk, my lawn. My 3-year-old granddaughter lives with us. They're not acceptable to me. I know that Captain Zabin and other representatives of the police department have been over to speak with Mr. Shulman. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I think you should be. I have gone over to speak with Mr. Shulman on a couple of other issues. He mentioned the trash. Because of my profession, I work a lot of odd hours. I sometimes work 16-hour shifts. I go in at 8 o'clock in the morning and I don't get out until midnight, which means I need 8 hours sleep before I go in for my next 16-hour shift. And to have the trash companies come at one time 2:45 and another time 1:45 in the morning, it's unacceptable. I've spoken at that time with Mr. Shulman, and I explained to him that we realize where we live is not across from a cow pasture. I understand the difficulties of meshing a residential neighborhood with a business district. But by the same token, I don't believe that as homeowners we should give up our rights to use and enjoyment of our home because someone is trying to operate a business. I fully respect Mr. Shulman's rights in trying to operate that business, but again, my family lives at this location. With respect to the commentary about the parking spaces on the side of the building, it was more than 25 feet of curb that was removed, and I would ask that you take the time to go out and measure it for yourself. Those parking spaces ran from Villa Avenue all the way back to an area where there's a dumpster located now. There was a small driveway left there that was used as an escape route for cars that were not going to go through the old car wash. The new car wash is not a carbon copy of what it replaced. It's a substantially different business, and if you have not been there, I invite you. Come to my house. You can sit in my living room, I'll make you dinner, you can watch what goes on for yourself.
We have to recuse ourselves.
Well, I understand, and I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but as a way to illustrate to you that, you know, what may happen during the business hours, which are another issue that I'll get to at some point, for us, is more than we should have to bear as residents. There was a wall on the side of that business, alongside the driveway. It ran from the building back toward Kohl's. And what it basically did was create a buffer between our house from the cars that were entering the car wash. That was also removed. So when Mr. Shulman took over the business and added the vacuum cleaners to the opposite side on the subway side of the building, a lot of those vacuums are shielded by the building, but there are several that are not. And when people pull in at night to use those vacuums, which they do, their headlights shine directly into our living room. Now I will grant you, in the colder weather, when the windows are closed, we draw the drapes. Listen, it's an inconvenience, but it's one that's easily remedied. It's nice out now. When we don't have to run the air conditioners, we don't. And I like the windows open, but we can't do that because of the lights that shine directly into our windows. Now, Mr. Shulman will tell you that he has shut down those vacuum cleaners. I'm not going to call him a liar. That may or may not be true, but I can tell you that it doesn't stop cars from parking in those spaces and attempting to use the vacuums or to clean out their cars. He mentioned cleaning up. That's true. I asked him to please do that because, frankly, there is no one on my side of the street that smokes. I try to take very good care of my property. And I go out in the street when I mow my lawn and I sweep up the street in front of my house. And I'm tired of sweeping up 200 cigarette butts at a time. Innumerable pieces of paper and plastic bags and things that are coming from the cars at the car wash. Mr. Shulman has sent his men over on several occasions, and it has helped, and I do appreciate that. But it hasn't eradicated that problem. There are a lot of issues that go on for us as residents in that particular home that you need to be aware of, again, as you consider this application. The lighting is another story in itself.
Can I ask you a question about the
Yes,
trash?
sir.
Did you have the trash issues when Villa was...
Not on the same scale. If I said no, it would be a lie, because there was always some trash blowing, and it still does come from Kohl's parking lot as well. Now, Kohl's has some bushes that act as a form of a natural buffer, and a lot of the trash gets caught in there. If you go check, if you went out right now, on your way home, you're going to find bags that are used on the rear windshield wipers of the cars going through Russell Speeder's car wash stuck in those bushes. Now, if Mr. Shulman wants to be a good neighbor, he should be out there policing that as well. That's not an issue, you know, that's on Kohl's property. They haven't gotten across the street to my property yet, but they have. The lighting, it's unacceptable. You know, you brought it up before, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Committee member, and you know, come out and look at it. The lights are on late. In fact, most of them are on all night. This business is open during the week until 9 o'clock at night. The people that work there are frequently there till after 10 o'clock. They run a compressor that powers a jet pressure washer that we had to speak to Mr. Shulman about, because when your phone vibrates, that's what it sounded like in our house. Every 5 minutes or less. He changed that tip but it hasn't stopped the noise. We still hear the noise, it just doesn't vibrate our property, our windows, the way it did at one time. On the weekends, he's open till 7 o'clock on a Sunday night, and again, employees are there till 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock. One night, we had lights shining in our window, we went out, and it was an employee's car, and because he was an employee, he felt it was okay. We don't want an adversarial relationship with this man or with anyone. As I said to you before, we live there. This is where we make our home. We're trying to do the best that we can. When I contacted Chief McNamara, I basically had said to him, I've reached the level of patience that I have with trying to resolve this issue on my own. So I'm asking you, face to face now, as a commission, please help us. Please. Thank you.
Commissioner Jacobson, I think, has a question.
Yes.
For staff. No, thank you, sir. No, she has a question to staff.
Okay.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I don't know if this is your area. Don't we have an ordinance in town that trash collectors are allowed to be on the road until 7:30? I know it's not.
A solid waste has something that comes up in their comments in their, when they do it for development, they do their code review. There's a solid waste requirement, regulations, is 7 or 7:30?
I know when we had trash collectors coming out, my street at 4 in the morning.
Mr. Jacobs is a pro on solid waste and recycling.
Okay.
And there's,
I don't remember the actual time, but it was you couldn't do it in the middle of the night.
Right, that's what I was told, that we had the problem on our street.
Commissioner Bresky would know that.
Okay.
Is there any other member of the public who wishes to speak?
I just want to talk about the parking.
We gotta come up because we're recording.
The parking.
You got, first come up.
parking
thanks.
on
No,
Cole.
Relax.
Okay.
I need your name and address for the record.
My name is Michelle Michaud. I live at 80 Greenfield Street. I've been there since 1989. I built that house with Jackie Durrell. As owner-built housing, I've been there forever. And I enjoy my house, and I do not anymore. And I just want to talk about the parking. I have a petition right here about the traffic and the issues that are going on. The parking at Kohl's, every year since I've lived there, the Barnum Parade has come and put their floats there. Every single year. This
past
year,
Saturday,
they did not fit because the people waiting to go to Russell Speeders to detail their vehicles were parked along where he has placed cones, like that's where they belong. Like, wait here, it's your turn next. That's all I really want to talk about, except the light that is shining in my bedroom window when my tree loses its leaves. The UI man came out with his candle wick meter, and he said it's way over what the candle wick. The hurricane came, they were supposed to fix it, they did not. I've called again because the hurricane is over and asked again, and he said he would call someone else.
I don't want to square. Is this lights on the building or on the pole, and where were the cones?
The lights on the pole are directly into my house. You can see the light pole shadow on my house because that's how bright it is. The cones were in the parking lot between Kohl's and Russell Speeders that they're waiting to go in for detailing.
From Villa Avenue side? From the entrance on Villa Avenue, is that?
Yeah, they come over, and you know where the parking lot, it came down, he put the lines back, but this way, directly towards where the car wash is, going towards Dunkin' Donuts. That whole area is where he parks. He also parks his car in front of Stop and Shop at Kohl's, where Stop and Shop is, so when you go up the hill on Tungus Hill, the other car wash, his car is there, so you can turn around and go to Russell Speeders. He places it there as an advertisement. So those are just things. And the lights in our living room, when they're parking, and there's 11 vacuums, there's not 9 or 10, there's 11. And those that are right into our living room, we're sitting on a sofa, we have to sit on the floor to continue to watch TV. It's really disturbing.
And that wasn't there before?
No, those were not there.
When the wall, was it the wall?
The wall was perfect, it was a buffer, it was perfect. Had a great relationship with the other car wash. The other car wash closed at 6. We have no outdoor time now. We cannot go outside and sit. It's too noisy, too many cars, too many people. It's too much. It's destroyed our home life.
Thank you. Any other member, I'm sorry, Mr. Went, yes.
The walls that were existing show up on the site plan. This was a pre-Russell Peters site plan. So you can see two wing walls that project off the rest of the side of the building. They are shown.
And they're not.
But,
For Russell
but they're
Speeders,
not
too?
there?
They were taken away,
Did
but
we-
they were on a site plan
did
when we
we-
approved it.
Did we approve that when they came in for the changes for, did we approve taking them out?
It was a facade.
Right,
Right.
right.
Don't make any changes other than the facade.
But as part of that, the walls came down?
Yes.
But, wait a minute, sure, but I'm confused. Are you suggesting that when they came back for the sign plan, that the site plan was changed and did not have the walls, and somehow we approved
There
some?
was no proposed change to the site plan at the time.
Right,
And the facade renovation and a sign plan package that was approved.
right. Okay,
There
so,
weren't any changes to the site.
right, so the current site plan requires those walls to be
I'm
up.
not saying that they were required or not, I just, there was reference to walls being made, equipment used to be, just so you know where they were.
Yeah.
They're shown on the plan, so you can.
Where they were.
And that would block, that would block the
These wing
light.
walls would block the headlights, is that correct? They're low walls, is that what you're calling the wing walls?
They're about 3-4 feet high, yeah.
When did the walls come down? When did
Here we
they
go.
come down?
He's gonna-
I don't know if you want me to explain it.
Why don't you show us, Mr. Shulman, and then you can explain, sure. And then if there's any member of the public.
I don't know if they were required or not. Villa Avenue Car Wash had been there for a long time. But you can see the walls. I mean, if you ever went to Villa Avenue Car Wash, you'd pull in and they would, they met you here and you got out of your car and their vacuums, they did have vacuums, but they were on this, on the other side of the wall. That wall no longer exists. That's, I think, the point that was being made, is some of the noise now comes through because that wall no longer is there and the headlight issue is no longer there. You'd walk through this little corridor here, there was a door and a corridor and you walk through. Right, that's correct. But this is the wall, that wall no longer exists.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who wishes to speak? Sir, come on up. And then we'll go back. So, Mr. Shulman, you'll speak at the end again. You'll have time. Just give us your name and address, sir.
My name is Henry Elzeni. I live at 80 Greenfield Street. And Mike and I have had many conversations. Paul basically covered 99% of it, but I just want to bring up a couple of issues. And one of them is, Paul is right by saying I don't want to call Mike a liar. But I do want to say this. Mike has told me many times, I'll fix it. He doesn't fix it. There was an issue one day, my wife and Paul's girlfriend drive school buses, and they pull in front of the house during the week where they have a break time, which is very short, but they're there. For some reason or another, some car came in. There's always arguments. People are always arguing about cutting each other off in front of the car wash right there, because it's not a very wide street, okay? But there is enough room for people to get by. But if you get a person that wants to turn left and a person that's coming down from the Coles area in that direction, and I told Mike this, and this is part of the reason why he put those signs up, because I argued with him. I said, Mike, one of these days, you're going to get sued. And I'm going to tell you why you're going to get sued. Because there's going to be a major accident there. And you know what? I think the committee should realize this too. People come down, they don't even think. They just take that left turn and they want to beat the next guy into the car wash. And a car's coming down, they're going to get a T-bone. It's going to be bad. It will happen if it continues. But I want to go back now a little bit. In the beginning, I was sitting in my yard, and just like Paul mentioned, I was sitting in my driveway one night, and I see rats running over. This was the first conversation I had with Mike. I went over there and I said, Mike, I said, there's rats coming over to my house. They're coming out of your car wash. They were digging holes up down inside the car wash, I guess, to put new machinery or pull chains to pull the cars through. Whatever the reason, I don't care. Rats are running across my property. He didn't want to talk to me too much about it. We went back and forth. Finally, he did do something. He got somebody over there to put those traps up. Getting back to the issue, I kind of jumped around a little bit there. I'm sorry. The buses. One day there was an issue where somebody was trying to get into the car wash and wouldn't let the bus go by. There were other cars behind the bus, and finally the person moved out of the way, and I guess somebody said something, and Mike came over banging on my door after my wife left and said to me that I have to get control of my wife. I told Mike to turn around, get off my property, and I don't want to ever see you again. Nobody's going to talk to me like that. Why he came and did that, I don't know. Didn't want to go any further into it. But I knew this day would come, and that's why I'm talking and telling you people about it. Everything I talked to Mike about, he didn't want to hear. He just brushed us off. About the lights, he said, well, he didn't know anything about that. That's not true. We told him many a times. We called Connecticut Light and Power. We had the guy come out. We had the guy meter the lights, and he told us they were way too bright. Way too bright. And he knew it, too. Okay? We spoke to him about that. But that issue, after a while, just kind of got blown off like everything else. As far as finishing the cars, the old car wash never did that outside. They always did it on the side of the building on the inside. Now, I know some of you people may have used the old car wash at one time. You got to remember, they did the finishing of the cars on the side of where the cars came out. They never did that on the outside of the car wash. And he's saying they did. That's not true. As for the vacuum cleaners, there was always just one vacuum. You guys, some of you people have been living here for years. You got to know, there was two guys there. They both had a hose. They went on each side of the car, and they sucked out and cleaned out your car like that. One vacuum, not 11.
How many are there now?
11 vacuum cleaners. And he said to me, when I complained to him about the lights in our windows at night, I'll disconnect the hoses after 6 o'clock and you won't have that problem. You come and look and make sure that they're disconnected. Well, I went there a couple of times. They were disconnected. I went there yesterday. They're still there. All night. We have people that come and vacuum their cars 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, so the car wash is actually closed,
the
but
outside
it's
vacuum
self-service. So people just...
That's right. I'm not saying that he's making these people do that. I'm saying he's the root cause of it happening. If it wasn't there, if it wasn't on, it wouldn't happen. I don't know, when this was all started up, maybe a year or 2 years ago, if all this was put on the table, but it's a circus, and I told him that too. It's been a circus. There are numerous other businesses that have complained because, and again, I'm going to say this to you people. Have you ever driven in front of that car wash? Sounds like American Airlines is ready to take off. The blowers that are in front of that building, and you want to know something? The front doesn't bother me that much. But I know the businesses across the street have complained to me about it. I said, Jesus, we listen to this all day long. And then he's got this police thing there that blows a whistle every time a car is done. And that bothers the people across the streets too. Well, all I got to say now is this. I've had my day, and I've said my piece. He never did anything about anything.
Brian, could I ask this gentleman a question? Could I just ask you a question?
If you'd like to. Mr. Jacobson,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
That's
you.
okay, we don't usually ask speakers questions, but have you ever made a complaint on the noise ordinances, or?
I'm sorry, I did forget one thing. We have numerous complaints to the police department, not only just from us, but I found out yesterday from many, many people that go back a year. Now, I know we have complained to the police department a few times about the fights, about the people that were in the street arguing about who could turn into the car wash first. One of these days, and mark my words, somebody's gonna pull a gun and shoot each other. I'm afraid a bullet's gonna come through my window and maybe hit me or my wife. That's how bad I've seen it.
Have you asked your RTM members at all?
They called him.
You have?
Bruce Smart. Yeah. I just want to answer about the noise. I called the police department. They don't have a reader for it. The town of Fairfield doesn't have a reader.
For noise?
For the noise from
Yeah,
the-
they don't have a reader. I don't know what it's called.
The sound decibels.
Yeah. We don't have a reader in the town of Fairfield.
They don't?
No, but it's very noisy there. Very noisy. I've had,
What about the health department?
the health department has come out to my house about it.
All right?
Commissioner Leslie was hoping, Jim, Commissioner Went, that you could circulate to us before the next hearing the original application for his pre-approval for this site. The one that came last time. Yeah, what was in that package, I think is what you're looking for. In the facade package, you're looking for that application?
Well, do the vacuum cleaners have to be on that or no?
Right, that's why we're here. This is it. That's the notice of violation that was issued.
Ah.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the order.
Rhonda Bongiovanni. I live at 82 Greenfield Street.
There you go.
I just want to say everything that they were going with, but also I do a drive-to-school bus, a mini bus in Fairfield, as Michelle, and we park sometimes in front of the house. One day I was parked out there, and my 3-year-old granddaughter was coming home from school on a mini bus, and she was outside. I went out to get her, and he had his people taking pictures, filming us, because we were trying to say that we were obstructing the flow of traffic in front of his car wash. I did call the police and make a report. I couldn't understand why a 3-year-old's getting off the bus and he's filming it. And just the swearing with people sitting in their car trying to pass other cars, they're swearing. I have, like I said, 3-year-old granddaughter outside playing, listening to all this that's going on. So, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there any further member of the public who wishes to speak? Hearing none, Mr. Shulman, do you want to speak again, or hold off to the next time you come back? Your decision.
I'll just make it quick, and I'll address some of the issues. The pictures of the cars that Rhonda was just referring to, there's been a lot of commotion over the last 6 or 8 months on traffic and the movement of traffic. The police have been out there. I've talked to, I've written down the sergeant who's the head of traffic and the local, Gary Weisskopf or something, local traffic. We were taking pictures of some other things that go on the street, which I'll supply to you in the next meeting, and that's what we're doing. There was nobody taking pictures of children. It was just, we have pictures of school buses doing some things that are probably not set up to be done. Vacuum hoses are disconnected at night. Pete did make a comment to me that somebody was out there at 3 a.m. We changed our policies and our procedures on our closing checklist to shut off the vacuums at 9 p.m. Somebody might have vacuumed at 3 a.m. I don't know that. We weren't set up for it. We're not trying to do that, but we're shutting them down at 9 p.m. There are other businesses in the area. Kohl's is open till 11 p.m. multiple nights per week. We're open till 9 p.m. The brush off, Pete says I brushed them off. I'll supply a list of 11 or 12 or 13 things that we've done since day one, that we've done to try to help be a reasonable neighbor within the neighborhood. Pete came to me within a couple of days and said there was rat issues. We hired somebody, an exterminating company. The exterminating company told me that the origin of the rats was from the Subway, the pizza place, the Dunkin' Donuts. That's because their dumpsters are behind their buildings. And I don't know that they're screened, but that's what I was told about the rats. The lighting, I do have a letter here from UI, a a text that I'll supply to you that says that they're in compliance from UI. So,
Commissioner
Yeah,
Jacobson.
I want to know on the UI, is that compliance with state requirements for lighting or with town ordinance for lighting?
as I understand, I asked that question back in October, he said with the town. That's what I was told by UI.
What does the letter say? Does the letter say it's in compliance with state or town ordinance?
He said that...
That might be a conclusion in any event. They don't, we don't know that he knows what our ordinance is.
Well, that's true, but, I mean,
You should probably give more,
He says, it says the service set up for PALs at this address to verify that the timers are set to go off at 10 p.m. and that they're all wired for 120 volt, because there was a discussion at some point that they were wired incorrectly and there was too much light being put out. That's what I was told by the UI rep. And that they sent somebody down to verify it.
voltage is not wattage.
No, but they said, he said that when the what I was explaining, I'm not an electrician, but what was explained is when they put more voltage through, there was a higher light output. That's what I'm not an electrician, but, because we went back and forth on this a number of times.
All right, well, you can submit the letter.
I'll submit that, and I'll also ask for an updated one.
Commissioner Jacobs and Commissioner Jacobson, I think, have questions, Mr. Shulman.
We do.
And the other part of that is, our requirements is not just on course lights put out, but it's called cutoff. The fixtures must be recessed and have cutoff, so the light doesn't go in any other direction. It is very defined, and the whole dark sky initiative, is very strict in how it is. It's very, and the fixtures that you can buy are certified, so that if you have another fixture, and you say, well, it meets state requirements, it's not putting out too much light, that's fine for the state, but that could possibly not come anywhere close to our requirements. So you need to look at the town of Fairfield zoning requirements on lighting, which can be totally different than state requirements.
If you look at some of the new gas stations, for instance, they're very bright underneath the canopies, but the houses next door would be in the dark, essentially, because the light is very
Straight.
and down, and it doesn't bounce and reflect. So that's an example. And some of the light poles that are put up now, the light only comes down. That's why they call it dark sky. The sky is dark, the neighbors are dark. You're just lighting up. It's almost task lighting. So that's part of our regulations. Commissioner Jacobson had a question.
Yeah, I have a few questions. You close at 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Is there any reason why the employees are hanging around after 9 o'clock?
We have to clean up the facility. We have to do closing procedures, count the money.
So it's still relatively noisy after 9 o'clock?
My definition of noisy and what the neighbor's definition of noisy is different. There's no cars going through, the doors are closed, and they're doing their maintenance and they're pulling in whatever supplies, but Kohl's is open till 11 p.m.
Okay. It might also be worthwhile to contact the Solid Waste and Recycling Department, because there is a town ordinance that forbids garbage trucks from being on the road before 7:30 in the morning.
I received a text from Paul when I woke up at 5 o'clock that morning. I texted the owner of the refuse company. This was the first time, and I explained that, that's not acceptable and whatever. I didn't know the laws, but whatever the laws were, that we should not even be close to the line. About 2 or 3 weeks later, I received another text from Paul stating the same issue had happened. I called the refuse owner again, and he said that the person was terminated. I don't know, you can ask him the question if we've had any problems since then. But to say that things aren't being addressed and being taken care of, I have the text messages, I printed them out because I am trying to resolve it, even though I don't control what time the person gets in his truck and drives there, even though it's not what I prefer to be working on. Okay, I have a picture of the wall here from the early 60s.
That's
There
not
was,
important.
there was no wall when the
It's
car
not
wash.
important. It's not important. The picture from the 1960s is not important. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, when did you take the wall down, or did you
In
not?
October, and
In
it was a wind wall for the persons who vacuumed the car.
Well, it did more than
Which-
stop the wind.
Which I explained to Pete, that the problem was with the lights on at night, and I said we would put another wall up before the fall for them.
But before the fall
Of this year.
2013?
This year, yes.
Why-
And
why
we
can't-
we discussed it about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Hey, Mr. Shulman,
Why wouldn't you do it before the fall of 2013? If
Why
the
didn't we
lights
do
are
it?
shining into their
We had another project, because what they're saying today is the hoses are taken off. I thought we had remedied it. I think they're talking about something that's previous to the discussion that we had together, And I thought we had rectified it, and on top of that, I said I would put a wall up. The problem with the walls were they were too close to where the cars pulled up in. As you notice, it's kind of an upward incline to get into the car wash, and the walls were very close to where the cars go. Okay, so we didn't have anybody out there vacuuming, so we didn't think it was a problem. But I said to them, I would put up a 3.5-foot high wall, what was there before, to block the cars from any lights having a chance at still, shining in their house. I put out an email to all of our associates to park their cars the opposite direction, to not have the light chance of us causing a problem.
Why, I'm just still a little concerned about why it would take you until the fall to put the wall back.
We had several other projects that we were taking care of.
So those are.
We have 2 other ones that are still on the docket there, but I mean, we could take care of it earlier. But I thought us taking the vacuum hoses off and shutting off the breakers to those vacuums at 6 p.m., that there would not be an issue. And considering it was light till 9 o'clock at night, that nobody would pull up there with their lights on and shine in their house.
You seem to operate a number of car washes. Are they all in industrial or commercial areas, and this is the only one abutting a residential neighborhood?
I would say I'd have to go back and look, but offhanded, we have 2 or 3 that are in residential areas.
Okay, but it's not a common practice to be near a residential.
It is common depending on when the house is, when the car wash was built. I mean, it does happen, it does occur. There was a comment that there was a great relationship with the old owner. I have statements with associates that now work for us that worked with the old owner and said that there was always complaints with the old owner. Noise, lights, traffic, garbage on the property. We send people over 2 days a week to clean the property. Kohl's does have litter on their property also. I find it difficult. In 6 months I've been there, 2 times I've picked up our garbage off of Kohl's property. I know it does happen. I'm not saying it never happens, but we are sending people over 2 times per week. The candle wick, I was told by UI that we were within it. The Barnum Parade, I think I remember the day that the Barnum was parade there. I think there was half of the parking lot in Kohl's was open. The vibration, we had a part that held one of the high-pressure washers break one day that they talked about with the vibration. We didn't notice it. We went back, we did replace it at that point, and we re-insulated all the other lines on top of that. The contractor's tape, on the contractor's tape, I was never told about the contractor's tape. Had I known about it, I would have addressed it, but I didn't know about that. And on the traffic issue, it's Sergeant Saban, I believe, is the head of the...
Captain Zabin?
Captain Zabin, I apologize.
Right.
He and I had a conversation about 3 weeks ago, because about 6 or 7 weeks ago, I was apprised, I think it was Officer Wyckoff came and visited us and asked what was going on, and I explained everything. And he said they're going to go, he explained how the process worked. So they have the residents do a petition, and then the police look at it, and then they decide whether or not they go to the commission. So there's a whole process. I did speak with Captain Zabin, and he said they went through the entire process. They looked at all the traffic and the issues, and they found out that there was no problem, and the case was closed. That's what I was told 3 or 4 weeks ago. So they had looked and addressed these issues of the traffic. And I asked him for a letter to clarify that. That's all. And some other things I wrote down notes on, I'll address.
Are there any questions, Mr. Shulman? I'm going to hold the hearing open. I'll continue this hearing until a future date. And you just coordinate
Well,
with
could I just
staff.
ask, because, I just want to understand, because, what it sounds to me is though, this application for the special exception for this one element, the curb, you know, if that's what the hearing is for, it seems like there's more to it. There's a, yeah.
This is
Establish.
This is the order of the violation relates to creating access to the site through an adjacent property by removal of the curb.
Right.
The elimination of 16 parking
Right.
spaces from that adjacent lot, and the installation of multiple
Vacuum
stations without permit or approval. That's what the...
Right,
the
exactly,
order.
right.
So then he has the special exception application to say, well, if you grant the special
Right.
exception, then I'll be in compliance through special exception,
Right.
and I won't be in
Right,
violation.
and that's what, exactly, that's, I agree, that's it. But what, I guess what I'm saying is that it seems like there's clearly, this is a property, you know, there's a business on a property. And, you know, imagine if, imagine if the world's worst hot yoga instructors took over that spot at hot yoga over at the Sportsplex and started like insisting on, you know, jamming 50 cars. I know whatever. My point is, it seems like the problem here is with the property owner. I mean, there's a comprehensive need here for a lot of these broad issues to be addressed. You know, you know, what's being asked for, at least, you know, there's a lot of controversy around what's being asked for. I guess what I'm saying is we can keep it open, but in the context of that hearing, it seems to me that what comes back to us ought to be something to earn a special exception that's in harmony with the neighborhood. And what's needed to be in harmony with the neighborhood is a lot more than maybe not having 11 vacuums. It may be this wall, it may be some sort of changes in the way that this entranceway, the lighting, the entranceway is parallel to the driveway of a private homeowner. I mean, this has become a more intensive use of this car wash property. And, you know, it may be that can work, and it may be what's necessary for it to succeed and to not fire people. But if that's going to be the case, then there's going to seem to be changes that are being raised here. So in the context of this application, can the applicant come back, can the property owner in this application come back? Because if they come back here without a site plan that has, or it doesn't, you know, somehow we get more than just promises about a wall that blocks out this light, that we get more than promises that we've gone from 1 to 11 of these coin-operated machines that are disconnected. Somehow, it needs to be clear to somebody just rolling along. They can't just show up there at 3 in the morning and put their lights in people's windows. The light, obviously, that has to be resolved. Because I'm not voting for piecemeal, you know, addressing this stuff. It's clearly a larger issue. So I guess what I'm asking for staff or from you, Mr. Chairman, is if we do keep this open, you know, can we, you know, sometimes people will come back to us with a changed plan or something like that. Can these other elements be incorporated into what we see as part of the special exception? Or do we have to, and I apologize for not having a better command of the rules here. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you know, this is a larger, it seems to be a larger issue. And some of those things may be enforcement, but others may not.
If they, you know, if they came back and said, we're putting the curb up, we're eliminating the vacuums, and we are...
putting up the wall, you know, and they have evidence that the light has been reduced, you know?
We need a whole new site plan.
But they're not going to do that. They're going to come back, I think, with something different, so we have to look at everything. You know, if they're going to take that, if they're going to deal with the wall, that curb down, they've opened up the door, I think, to the parking and the access into that site, which is something they have to look at. Maybe they ought to queue up to the parking lot. Maybe they ought to come in Villa Avenue, go around, off the Grandfield
Look,
Street.
here's
There could be a number of ways they can make this.
Point is this: we rush around town with our cameras looking for who has a sign out on their partition at their outdoor dining, and we, you know, this is a lot more serious. Obviously, I think we all see this. A lot of people here are very frustrated and outraged for these residents. You know, there needs to be a comprehensive solution. There are conditions of approval or something here that holds us. Now, some things may be enforcement issues, no doubt, but other ones, it seems, have to be addressed. Sorry, Mr. Vice
And I
Chair.
think one of these is parking, you know, I know this Fred's is at our side of town, and you look, and that never backs up on the post, our
Right.
side being the west side as opposed to the east side where I live. And Fred's doesn't back up onto the post road, but, and so there's, so whatever number of cars fits there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever comes in, you know, the pump, the vacuums are on the right, that works. This obviously only holds like 2 or 3 cars before you're on the street. It's
Right,
a shorter
Greenfield
field.
is what we
Maybe
heard.
this needs the same model where you come in from Villa Avenue, the vacuums are on the right, and then the car line comes behind them, loops around, and comes in from north to south. Maybe that solves a lot of the problems. I think there are things Mr. Shulman could look at here as part of this plan. Commissioner Jacobs and Commissioner Barris.
The other thing that has to
We've
be,
just gone into executive session.
the other thing that has to be looked at is that there's not parking for Kohl's, that it's not taking parking from Kohl's. That's one. And if you looked at this whole thing, if this came as a new application, without parking on site, we'd never approve it.
Appreciate the guys.
Yeah, I
You're the one who-
maybe answer,
you knew
what
it.
I think the answer
That
to
was
Mr.
great.
Tonelli's question is that maybe, because Mr. Shulman, I know in your letter you said you're not a lawyer, you're a business
Right.
owner, and that's fine. Say, this is
Not that
a
late.
special exception application for the expansion of an existing car wash use. Usually when we get an application, there's like a statement of use, not, I'm in violation, so I want to do, maybe 11 vacuums is fine, I don't even know, but it should say, I want to put in this many vacuums, this is gonna be the traffic flow. And all the conditions, Mr. Canelli, that they're in 27.4,
Right.
including
Harmony
with the
for
neighborhood,
27.7, right,
including,
right.
the
Right.
traffic flow, the
Right.
streets will be adequate to service.
Right.
All those things apply to a special exception application. We may not be hearing them overtly, but,
Okay.
and again, Mr. Shulman, I understand you're a business owner, not an attorney, but that's usually on a special application, exception application, that's what we get presented, enough information to render a decision that it does meet those requirements.
Right.
And again, this isn't closed yet, you're gonna have another opportunity to come back, I'm just trying to make you aware that we do have a whole section that deals with what conditions are approved on. And now we're dealing with after the fact, Mr. Jacobs is always all over lighting. A lot of us are all over, pedestrian access or traffic, ingress, safe ingress and egress. These are the things we care about a lot. I mean, we're hearing from you and from the neighbors after the fact. It still amazes me that we had a facade on the side. And I even remember this application because it was a consideration of how big the dollar sign was versus the street address. That's all I remember talking about. I don't remember anything other than.
Well, I don't remember 11, I remember 11 coin-operated at night, machines that were gonna let these buzz, no way. Or, that walls, look, here's the thing. At the end of the day, you're right, 27.7 is where the harmony test is under this special exception. There's a need here for these issues to be addressed. You're right, Mr. Chairman, another location, cars aren't backing up in the post road, there aren't these kind of complaints from neighbors. These things have to be addressed. The landowner here, the owner of this property has to decide if he's gonna have a more intensive car wash use, a modern one, not like the 1970s or whatever it was, that changes on the site are gonna be necessary, but they ought to be changes that are worked out as best you can with neighbors to address their concerns. They shouldn't have to now after living with a car wash for 40 years. We're getting to executive session. The Commissioner Wagner's right, but
Let me make suggestions.
Yeah.
This whole situation arose because there was equipment and improvements made to the site that were beyond the scope of the application that was presented to us, hence the violation. Mr. Shulman is here to try to explain what happened. I think probably the better approach would be to revise the application, rather than leaving the hearing open.
Revise the application, that's what I'm saying.
We denied this application without prejudice.
Right.
And allow
That's what I'm
him a reasonable amount of time to come back with a new application with a site plan that accurately depicts the present
that's what I'm saying.
conditions along with the owner of the property, to make an attempt to ameliorate the concerns that have been raised this evening, in addition to the concerns that you folks have raised, to see if there's a way to make this work. It may work, it may not. The bottom line is, what's out there now is beyond the scope of the permit that we approved. So that's why we're here. So if perhaps a more prudent way to go about this, rather than leaving the hearing open for the... But I want to put some sort of time limit on that that's reasonable for the applicant to produce a plan that's necessary, but at the same time, not leave it open-ended so this is ongoing, until the fall of 2013.
So could we go into executive session and maybe do a denial tonight? Close?
We could do that.
That's my thought, just to start the clock again.
That is just...
But that's what I was blundering towards.
Consideration.
As usual, you've clarified what I was blundering, but that's what I agree.
So one of the, issues I didn't raise before is the compliance date. So the date of the notice is April 24th. Let's give them a couple of days for mailing. And the order directs compliance within 30 days, which would be, May sometime. you know, here we are in July, right? And now
Well,
we have...
in fairness to the applicant, he did submit his application on the 17th of May.
Got it. Understood.
It's taken a while for us to get this on a
Thank you.
hearing
That's
document.
why I raised it the way I did. Understood. Good.
Yep.
So, you know, and I would just say it's important that, yes, we put a date on that, because it's really an extension of the compliance period. We're really saying,
That's why you close it.
okay, we get it, we're gonna deny this, but we're gonna sort of give you some extra time to come back and the,
With a
you know...
comprehensive solution.
Right, and the landlord to be involved in that process, because I think any solution has to take into account the site plan. It's gonna have to use some space on the Coles property, and it's just gonna have to work, you know? Yeah. I think we gotta...
We can't address the public one, we can't procedurally, we have a more fundamental problem we have to deal with here, sir. Mr. Shulman, do you propose that we close this hearing tonight, deny your application, and that you come back and submit, and our existing order remain as an existing order from our enforcement staff?
Or we're just extending the compliance date.
Are we
right?
extending the compliance date? Well, are we extending the compliance date for, you know, get this application back in a few weeks?
Or giving just, you know...
We don't
just-
have a compliance date right now.
Well, it's within...
He's in violation right now.
Technically-
Apply all you want, that doesn't extend your violation.
Chairman, I apologize for interrupting you, but that's where my concern
No, you
is,
can't, sir, you're out of order, you can't interrupt us.
there's a record being proposed, and you can't... Will I get another opportunity to speak, sir?
Not right now, no. We have a violation that exists. Just because someone applies for something doesn't put them out of violation. So he's in violation, and we can't extend the compliance date.
Right.
We don't have the jurisdiction to do that, frankly. We can only approve applications or deny them. Russell Speeders is in violation now. This could be referred to the town attorney for legal action.
Could be.
Immediately, for a cease and desist order, whatever, or penalties under the applicable statutes or ordinances. We don't get to give people more time to comply.
Right.
So we have two choices. One is, and the applicant can either ask that we close the hearing tonight, we can make a decision. He can ask that we keep the hearing open, or he can ask that we close it and reapply ASAP to come back and make the business decision what he plans on doing regarding the compliance or the violation that is existing right now.
And
We
that's
can't tell him what to do. He's got a violation.
Understood.
He's got to make that decision, and then the commission and our enforcement officer and the town attorney have a decision to make as well.
No, our recommend, frankly, cut to the chase on that, our recommendation is that the violation has to be at least ameliorated partially.
Right.
Very simply, the equipment that was established without a permit needs to be inoperable.
Right.
Until an application is made and approved.
Okay. So he's still, are those machines operable right now?
Yep.
The 11 units are still operable?
All right. So you can ask, Mr. Shulman, the bottom line is you can ask us to continue with our hearing as we are, and we'll close the hearing this evening. You can ask us to keep the hearing open, and this commission can make a decision. I'll make a decision whether I keep it open or not. Or you can, that's your choice. You can either keep the hearing open or you can close the hearing. If you can ask me to keep the hearing open, I may or may not keep it open. If I close the hearing, this commission may or may not go into executive session tonight to make a decision on
We
this.
still have another
rather
matter
than
on
voting next
too,
week.
Yeah, but-
which Mr. Soper's been waiting patiently
Yes,
for.
after we don't go to public hearings. And then, you know, we cannot tell you what to do regarding your violation. We can just tell you what the order's been issued by our department, and you're in violation. Your business is in violation of it. So you've heard what the staff has indicated. So I'll leave it to you what you're going to request of us.
I'm not an attorney, so I can't think fast enough what I'm supposed to do or what I should do, but the vet... No,
This is the director plan.
That's good.
You can do whatever you want.
Right, that's correct.
You can close the hearing now if you want.
That's correct.
And then you can deny his application without prejudice.
Right.
And then his option is, which I would recommend, is he would put together a new application to you. But in that interim, the equipment has to be shut down. That's the best thing they can offer.
I can't give you that advice as your chairman.
I'll accept that.
Right.
So, that being done, is there anything further you wish to
All
add?
right.
Who's got that?
Is there anything further you wanted to add right now? So at that point, I'm going to close the hearing on this item for tonight. And I do just tell Mr. Shulman that this may be an item, there's a good chance you will hear this at the end of public hearing. We may go back into executive session this evening to discuss this item, so you may want to stick around for a few minutes.
Okay.
As members of the public, what we just did, I closed the public hearing on this, but we may go back into executive session at the end of tonight. I indicated earlier that we typically don't vote for items the same night they're heard. I have a feeling that you may hear this voted on later this evening after the last application is public hearing, so you may want to stick around as well. Plus, I think it's pouring rain outside, so.
Yeah, really. Nobody's going anywhere.
It was anyways. We have one more item on public hearing. 742 Kings Highway West, special permit application of J. Maxwell Soper pertaining to the construction of a two-car garage with an office above in a design commercial district.
Just for time, sir.
Good evening.
And it just happens to have a nuclear reactor in there or something.
Good evening, my name is Max Soper.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, thank you for your time. I am here representing the Southport Business Center. We are seeking your permission to build a two-car garage with a studio office above. I will move quickly as I...
You can orient this. The gas station on the corner, the service station on the corner. And then behind it, there are several offices. Really, there's a hair salon at the corner of
Yes, sir.
Highway. In the building, if you're looking at the hair salon, to your right on the post road is that auto repair facility that I forget the name, but next to Fred's Car Wash. Yes. You're the buildings right behind that. There's several buildings that look the same close to the street, correct? Okay. And that whole site is what you're calling the Southport Business Center? There's your picture right there, okay.
Yes, sir, that's correct. The car wash...
This is Kings Highway East or
West.
West.
Kings Highway West, north of the Boston Post Road at Southport. Remember, Kings Highway West, I think, crosses the Post Road at that point and heads west to south of the Post Road.
Correct.
A little confusing with the street names.
The gas station no longer pumps gas,
Right.
so you had me a little confused, but I did take the liberty of making my own.
Service center or something they call it, I think.
This will help you. This is a drawing that I etched or sketched myself, which will allow you to get an idea as to what we're looking at. There you go. So this is one of the buildings. The two are then attached, and your salon is here. And just sort of cut to the chase, there's the proposed building to go in the back, which I will flip over and show you what that looks like on plan. So on plan, if you can see this, can you all see this? We have the small building, we have the hair salon, small building, medium building, and big building. And in the back, a proposed building, which, by the way...
Make the porridge.
That's where they make the porridge. And this, we have received a variance for, because we asked for a setback modification. And the reason for that is because there's drainage going through here, which is an easement, and we have no other place to put it. So that was granted to us on April 4th, 2013. That's when our hearing was, and that was unanimous. So moving along, there's your site plan with ample parking. This is a small building which will reflect what's already built here. This is a drawing by Jack Franzen Architects to somewhat show what's there.
What are you exactly making?
Complement it, yeah. Just a garage with a little office studio above. That's it. That's it. So the impact...
Is it a storage garage, basically, or?
It would be somewhat for storage. A vehicle would be parked in there, a truck, and a little bit of storage for the office complex and for some of the business that I do, which
So
is
a working garage.
real estate related. Yes, I'm in the
It's
real...
not a service garage, you're not repairing, fixing things, this is for storage of the vehicles you use in connection with your operation of this property, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that the two-car garage spaces are required in the parking count.
Jim is correct, thank you. Yes, he's correct.
So the two parking spaces
In there, that are part of the computation to make this all work successfully.
Gotcha. And are those going to be allocated for the commercial space on the second floor?
It's for the overall it makes the whole space come together so that it's adequate for parking and for office space.
Is the office space on the second floor that's going to be commercial, going to be rented?
Yes.
And so does the person who rents the commercial space get the 2 parking spaces, the garages?
Guilty.
So that's going to be your office?
Well, that's the
So you can
that's
drive
the
from
theory.
garage to garage and then take the internal stairs up and not have to
Correct.
worry about the snow?
Right, exactly.
Right, okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's both, so both those spaces though, I guess my question relates to whether the spaces are available, if they're going to be counted towards the overall site plan, whether the spaces are going to be available to the other tenants in the other units, or are they allocated to the space? If they're going to be garage doors that close, does the computation work?
That's a landlord issue, but it's 520 square feet of office requires 3 parking.
That's fine. If the 2 that are enclosed are going to be allocated to the commercial space, they get the 2 plus 1 outside. So it makes so then that works. Yes?
Yes.
It could, certainly, but that's his, if he wants to allocate them, that works.
That's why I asked the question. Are they allocated to the commercial space on the second floor within the building?
I think, not to be too diplomatic here, but I think that because I can't answer that exactly.
Why not?
I believe the diplomatic answer that I'm going to come up with is simply, we have enough parking to suit everybody here on the premises. If somebody said, I've got to have an indoor parking space, you could give it to them. I don't think it
No.
has to be, no?
Yeah?
It's a whole lot.
Yeah.
It's a number of spaces for the
Oh,
entire property.
yeah.
Doesn't
It's got
work.
I thought this
It
was
doesn't
there.
have to be allocated.
Right, here, I'm sorry, I thought this was flipped up.
Okay.
So, I believe it's universal to this entire property.
Okay.
Just walk.
Yep.
Spaces over there, spaces in the building, way down there, doesn't matter, as long as the whole property has a number of spaces.
Well, I guess we can talk about this in executive session. It's fine. I mean, I understand and I get it. That's good.
The allocation is relevant, we can talk about that in
Yep.
executive. It is,
Mhm.
because you can't just put spaces, put a door up, and then... Exactly. That's not Mr. Wagner's point. You're okay, keep talking.
I'm done.
Okay. Mr. Barrett, I think you have a question.
7 more hours for the parking space garage.
Yeah, seriously.
Because I noticed that your property borders both the design commercial to a property owner next door, and then actually the design residence, so there's condominiums or something.
Correct.
Right? You know, when you were looking for the 0 setback, understanding that's where you had to put the garage, there was no opposition to that at all?
We got to the 0 setback, no, but there was a letter from a gentleman who lives at Southport Woods, which was read to the commission at the hearing on April 4th. And they read it and listened, and they unanimously approved what we have here for the 0 setback. So maybe I should be cautious how I say this, but because they were unanimous, they didn't believe that his concerns were accurate to this property. So this was approved for the setback.
Okay, yeah, I understand, and that's if it's approved by the ZBA, that is the regulation that we deal with, so.
As I understand. I thank you all, and I do ask if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Any further questions?
Any further questions by the commissioner? Hearing none, thank you, sir. Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment on this application? Also hearing none.
Thank you
Close the hearing.
for your time.
There is no further item on our agenda. There's something I wanted to talk to you about, but I could wait if there's going to be a motion to go back into executive session, which I think Mr. Kennelly is going to make.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to go into executive session, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Commissioner Jacobs has seconded. Is there a motion now, Commissioner Kennelly?
Yeah, I'd like to, if we could, move to bring item number 2 on the, I'll have to make a motion to do it, that we call for a vote for special exception application of Mike Shulman for expansion of an existing car wash use design commercial district.
Motion to approve or deny that?
Would be a motion to approve for discussion purposes.
There's been a motion made by Commissioner
It's easier than the yes, no.
Kennelly to approve 620 Villa Avenue, special exception application of Mike Shulman for expansion of an existing car wash use in a design commercial district. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobs. Jacobson is seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Commissioner
Mr. Chairman, I think, I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I think it's been pretty clear from all the points raised, beginning with those raised by Commissioner Alessi and all of my colleagues, that there are some significant issues related simply to the most basic test for me always when these applications come forward. That is the test of harmony with the neighborhood clearly not remotely met. I'm opposed to us moving ahead with this particular special exception. I'm comfortable with the idea of denying it without prejudice so that it may, a more appropriate plan, a comprehensive plan, a more harmonious plan can be presented to the Commission as soon as possible. That said, as was pointed out by staff, that does not somehow, our rejection in the hope that a new plan can go forward, as you pointed out, does not mean that the violations in place don't need to be addressed right now, especially those machines out front, outside of the building, or to the outside of the building. So, anyway, I oppose this. I hope we all will.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner Barrett?
Yeah, I'll be very quick, because we talked a lot about this. Again, maybe because of the nature of this public hearing, we talked a lot about it in terms, things we probably wouldn't normally say during a public hearing. It was almost like a public executive session. And I would just say, because I know that Mr. Shulman can hear us, this is a favor to him. We could have closed this hearing. We could have voted it 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now. We have, I forget how long to decide it, 65 days. So we could have waited 2 months to decide it. This is, moving or, maybe denying this tonight is a favor to him. It gets the,
absolutely.
that he can come back with a new application. And that's all I want to say is that whatever it is, it needs to be an application that addresses. This is the site. Right. This is what I'm going to do with it. This is how people are going to get in and out. This is going to be the equipment. All that stuff that happened needs to happen. It needs to get approved before it happens. I'm not saying it should or shouldn't, but we need to see a true special exception application for how he wants to use the property. So I didn't see that tonight, so I would deny this application. Thank you.
No, it's got to be comprehensive. It's got to address these issues of the community. You want a more intensive kind of modern car wash, okay, but you got to come back to us with a package so that no one comes up here and doesn't think that those issues they have are addressed. It's frustrating, it's difficult, but that's got to happen. And that's the light and all the rest.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner.
All right. So, I agree. I don't think we need to belabor the points anymore. But the one thing that I wanted to make clear is that I frankly don't view this as a favor to the applicant here. I really view it as a service to the residents who came forward, because the sooner that we can deal with this and deny this and give him direction to come back with a new comprehensive application, the sooner that these issues can be dealt with. Okay, so, that's why I am supporting this happening tonight. We normally would never do this, but that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion by any member of the Commission? Hearing none, there's been a motion to approve this application, perhaps that should be withdrawn, and there should be a motion to deny without prejudice to keep, so we have...
So I made the original motion. I'll do that. I only did that because often we get confused with the A and I get confused with the A and A. All right, so I will withdraw my original motion, Mr. Chairman.
And the second was made by...
I did.
Is that okay?
Did you agree with the withdrawal of your motion?
So I was...
Do you have a new motion?
I do, and that would be that we deny this application, we reject this application, without prejudice.
So there's been a motion to deny without prejudice application of 620 Villa Avenue, special exception application of Mike Shulman for expansion of an existing car wash use in a designed commercial district. Is there a second? Commissioner Jacobson?
Second.
There's a second. The motion is to deny. So all in favor of the denial should signify by saying aye when I call the vote. So if you want to deny, signify by saying aye. All in favor of a denial, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to the denial? Abstentions? This item is denied unanimously without prejudice for the applicant to come back. I did want to take a moment now, since we have nothing on the agenda, just to, for personal privilege on something, to let you folks know officially this is going to be my last meeting on the Commission. There are certain demands of my law practice that have forced me to take this step. Specifically, there's both statutes and ethical rules prohibiting me from appearing before the Commission or any of my colleagues from appearing before the Commission while a member, and I will be appearing before the commission soon. And you know, practicality of my practice, I cannot say, you know, no to business continually, as I've been on this commission for a while. I've been an elected official in Fairfield since the early 1990s on the RTM, as many of you know, and then this commission over 20 years. And I have to let you know, this commission and all of you have been my favorite elected position ever in Fairfield. And one of the reasons is this is truly a bipartisan group, as it should be. No one sitting here in the audience, no one on the television who watches can tell who's the Republican, who's the Democrat, who may be an independent. And I think that's how it should be on a zoning commission. You know, I thank you all on this commission for your incredible dedication, passion, and compassion at the same time, and for having a vision for Fairfield that you exemplify all the time. You know, I know the sacrifices you all make to be here, your family, your kids, your other obligations to spend night after night listening to applications and trying to do the right thing and driving to sites and reading plans and studying plans and analyzing them. And how often that goes unappreciated by many people in Fairfield who don't realize the time that you folks spend doing that. Yeah, I've always said that the most important thing in our lives next to our family is our community. And we really have a special place here in Fairfield where we raise our families and where we all live. We've got clearly one of the best downtowns in all of Connecticut, if you look around our state, the most vibrant downtown. And we have some of the best neighborhoods in the entire country, if you look at the neighborhoods we've been fighting to protect for so many years. And that's no accident that we have that in Fairfield. And I just want to thank the staff, Joe and Jim and Dolores, and especially you folks, my fellow commissioners, for keeping Fairfield special for so many years. And thank you. With that being said, we have... We have no further business on the agenda, so we will...
Brian, I want to thank you, too. This is a really special commission. I've enjoyed working with you, and you do a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely outstanding.
So we will, thank you. We'll stand in adjournment. You'll see me.
Please do not leave without your
Oh, yes.
packet for next week.
We need more paper.